Inside Thursday night, how's it going? Alright, strip back, good crack, multi-trade podcast. Share the knowledge you know, help to make our sector grow. Everybody's learning from experts and the journeymen. Insights.
Right, we're back. Season 6, Episode 10. I'm Stephen Buckley.
And I'm Keith Delahan.
And this is Insight, the Stripped Back podcast, sponsored by Robust Lighting.
And in association with Snickers Workwear Ireland.
Season finale.
Yeah, you're going to have to get strapped in, get the popcorn on, get the kettle on, or wherever you're doing, or you're on a long journey in the van. This is going to be the perfect one for you.
Yeah, feature length. Really, really good end to the season. I know it's been another one that's, stuck with us. A lot of great guests that we've had on, a lot of great stories, journeys, a lot of great insights, and just seems to be getting better and better every season. Yeah,
look, we have no shortage of people looking to come on now, and a lot of people coming out from the woodwork, which is great for us. And look, the support we've got from our listeners, the viewers, and our sponsors as well. It's just been a thrill this season. So
yeah, and I guess what we'll do is we'll get into the episode later on the episode for the special guest interview segment. We've got Edel McSorley, Operations Director of Mr. Price. Really looking forward to that one. But before that, who have we got on the overload, Keith?
We've got YouTube sensation and fellow electrician Adam Stears joining us from the UK. Fair play to him for making the journey over just to talk to us. But it's going to be a really interesting one. And I suppose we'll jump into it, will we?
Yeah, let's get into it. This podcast is sponsored by Robust Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company.
Jump over and download the My Robust app, see their full range and catalogue, and make the next order with ease.
Adam, thanks for joining myself and Keith for the final episode of Season 6. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you make the effort to come over from the UK and join us here in Dublin.
Thank you so much. And to be honest with you, I've been binging your podcasts, so it really is a pleasure to be here, to be on one of them. And I never thought I would be doing this sort of thing, so thank you so much.
Yeah, no, brave decision to come on. As you know, we like to deep dive into people's lives and upbringings, and just the general chit chat is
bank account details,
bank account, swipe and a bit has to be on the way in. But no, brave decision, and thanks very much for coming over to us, because it's a privilege for me, because as we said earlier on, I binge watch your stuff, so it's great to have you on. Yeah, it's a bit surreal. Yeah, it's a bit weird actually. Yeah.
We do say, you get a few people now saying to us, where they've sort of found us late, so they've worked their way back, and I've started to say to myself, I might go back and listen to some of the older episodes, but it's crazy, when you think about where you come from, because it's just making that step, like what you made, and we'll get into a bit later, getting into social media and stuff, but to be able to put yourself out there and even just say your first few words online, or, having yourself on a pedestal to be knocked off is a very brave thing to do. And I think, like what Keith was saying, it's fairly surreal when you actually get to meet the people in person that we consider you to be an electrical celebrity, and I don't know if you can see that, within yourself with the type of work you're doing.
Not at all. I'm just a guy, a spark, who happens to have a camera with him. And that's how I see it. That's it. I'm just I like making videos. It's good fun. The community that's come from social media is absolutely incredible as far as I'm concerned. I've made so many friends, especially when you work on your own day in and day out. There is no one to talk to. So, just having this engagement and talking to people, and also problem solving, because we're all good at different things. Mm-hmm. And people ask me all the time and send me messages about EV charging, and they've got a situation or what charger to use, and I'll help everyone as much as I possibly can. And I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups, and there's different guys who are good at different things, good at testing or do more commercial or EICRs and fault finding. And we can all just talk to each other and learn off each other, because we all simply don't know the same stuff. And it's all through experience, isn't it? And what you've done in the past and who's taught you. So networking's great.
You've literally said that upstairs, because we were kind of trying to get the feel of you and trying to deep dive into what the outcome would be, or what the purpose is. And you just literally said, I'm just in this to make friends.
Yeah.
Just in to make friends, connections, networking. Any sign of controversy, anything like that, I'm not interested.
I'm not interested in any debates or getting into arguments or any sort of conflicting situations. There's more to life than that. So I just, be nice or go away.
Yeah. That kind of took us aback. It took me back upstairs because...
Well, I had to crumple this picture here that I had of your job that you done last year.
We were going to critique. He might have just walked out.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It is really refreshing to see that because everybody's out there for the clickbait. Yeah. If it's clickbait through a podcast or through an Instagram post or a TikTok video or a YouTube video, look, some people feed off that. Like they nearly put little mistakes into their own videos and all that just to get the views and the trolls coming on, just to get the algorithms up. Like, but to have somebody come on and or even just before he even came on and speak to us upstairs, like Keith said, and mention that it's all about connection and networking and, supporting others and hoping other people are going to support you and supporting you through, watching your videos, or not even like constructive criticism is brilliant, I think. If somebody can contact you and write something meaningful on your YouTube video that would actually make a lot of sense, be kind, professional, and maybe open up a conversation with you back and forth, I think you would accept it. But it's the people that, are only out there just to catch you out, like, is the problem.
But the thing is, like, in my eyes, it's how you're doing. Like, we're not going to keep rambling on about, but it's how you're doing so well, but just you haven't introduced any controversy. You're not out. You're looking for trouble.
I'm not interested.
You're doing an immaculate job, and you're just videoing it. Simple.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to ask yourself when you're making social media, why are you doing it? Yeah. Who is your audience and what are you trying to achieve? So for me, the original goal was to drum up business. I was spending an awful lot of money when I first started out trying to find work, because when I went out on my own, I was woefully unprepared for it and no one knew who I am. You can be the best Sparky in the world, but unless people know about you, you're never going to get a job. So you need to learn to market. And that's part of business, isn't it? You need to learn, obviously, when you go on your own. You're not just the electrician. You're the marketer. You're the accountant. You're obviously the installer. Then you have all the other admin to do that. You're doing the quoting, the invoicing. Everything is down to you. You need to learn about all these things. But without winning work, nothing's going to happen. So I spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money on like local magazines, getting half-page adverts here, half-page adverts there. You get other companies. I'm going to do a little bit of just helping guidance for people, really. So I had companies like Yale.com, for example, hounding me to design a website for me. And other companies, Yale again, promising to get you at #1 in Google. It's all a load of rubbish. Right?
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. I've had so many people phone me and tell me that they are going to make me #1 in Google. Yeah. And how can they all do it? It's absolutely impossible.
And they're telling everybody that.
Absolutely telling everyone that. So don't fall for that. You can do it all organically. I have done all of my advertising organically. So the website I built myself. A Google page. Google's the biggest search engine in the world. So get straight on that. Start posting pictures. Get your Google page set up and organised.
Is your YouTube is that a separate business to your electrical business? Do you think? Like, have you put so much effort into promoting yourself as an electrician through the likes of YouTube and social media, but more YouTube in a sense, that do you see yourself online as a separate entity? Like, can you make money from YouTube apart from making money as an electrician? Do you see that going in that direction? Like your video views must be at a point on YouTube now where it's monetized or monetizable.
Yeah, absolutely. So YouTube is monetized, and I have learned that I can create income through social media in different ways.
Yeah.
But for me, what I've decided to use that for is, again, being self-employed, common ground is to not have a pension. So anything that I earn through social media goes in that pension pot. That is what that's for.
Yeah.
So I'm going to carry on doing my normal job, my normal work, as I normally would. But because I am really behind on my pension, I'm doing 2 jobs. I'm doing the social media, and that secondary job is for the pension to look after me a bit later on.
It's like a means to an end, yeah.
Kind of, you know, well, I don't know if that means to the end, but, you know, there's potential there for that to grow and get bigger as well.
Yeah.
A better pension as well.
A better pension. Yeah. Maybe retire earlier.
Yeah.
But why not?
But that's it. Like, like, I think it's crazy for people not to think of what the end goal is. You know what I mean? And that end goal links back into why are we making money? You know, you can make money to invest back into something, or you can make money for the end. But I don't mean the end of your life. I mean the end of that.
For tomorrow.
That chapter of your life, which is your electrical career. You know what I mean? At the end, when that finishes, you want to be able to have that lump sum there in the background to go off and then cruise or holidays or whatever, you know?
And that content's there forever. Well,
is there
as long as
forever.
YouTube is there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and again, that can just stop tomorrow for all we know.
Yeah.
So, you know, use it, take advantage of it.
What's the difference of putting content out there that's educational along with entertaining rather than just putting content out there that's, oh, look what I done?
I think there's more to it than just that. You've obviously got the education side. So again, it's talking about the audience that you're targeting your social towards. So I do content which has educational bits in it, but I'm not going to go so in depth that a DIYer can simulate the work, because at the end of the day, they still can't do the testing. They still don't know if it's right or wrong. That they can get things working, but they don't know if it's actually right.
Yeah.
Right. So how long is it going to work for? And is there going to be a consequence to them doing it on their own? So I'm not going to go to the extent of showing you every single connection and what to do, because I don't want to be responsible for someone else's actions. Entertainment side of things, you need to bring in a little bit of entertainment and tell a story. And that's purely for engagement, to keep people watching. Everyone's attention spans now is like nothing. So you need to be on it, and with the algorithms and the way people think and all the variation of content that's out there, you need to adapt with that. And then also the third part of it for me is the sales side of it. So I want to produce a visual portfolio of myself and my work and the service that I offer. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world, right? And people go on YouTube because they want to find out something. They want to learn about something, or it's for entertainment. Yeah. So for me, I saw this area with the EV charging, electric cars, brand new. If you're looking at getting an electric car, what you're bound to do, what a lot of people are going to do, they're going to go on YouTube and learn about electric cars, learn about the batteries, the range, maintenance, all this sort of thing. Problem 2, how am I going to charge it? Right, so I'm going to go up now back on YouTube. What is an EV charger? What's involved in that? Oh, look, this guy, he's making videos on it and he's showing me exactly what's involved in that. Oh, his work's pretty good as well. Seems like a nice guy. I'm going to watch some more of his stuff. Feel like they know you. All of a sudden, they get in contact with you. Whereabouts? I've Googled you. I've seen you're here. Would you mind coming and doing this job for me? So, you know, it's lead generation. It's the modern way that people are searching for services now. It's through social media. And you can look at content day in and day out. There's all sorts of content out there for everything. People are buying relentless amount of stuff on like TikTok Shop, for example.
Yeah.
People are making a killing on TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Absolutely loads. You know, that's like high streets. They're just going to get wiped out online buying. And TikTok is just huge now.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. So people who are searching for products or services, they're heading towards social media.
Because it's in their hand all the time. It's literally there.
Constantly.
You know what I mean?
Constantly. You can't get away from it. So why not advertise on it? And not only that, it's free. So you can build basically an online permanent portfolio of you, your business and your work for free across all sorts of platforms. Obviously LinkedIn, more business. You can do a lot of networking on LinkedIn as well. Business to business. You know, you can create some great networking contacts for that. And then you've got obviously like the Facebook, TikTok. I haven't got any work through TikTok. That is purely like a scrolling entertainment.
Yeah, it's an entertainment platform.
Yeah, crazy platform.
anything goes.
Yeah, absolutely. YouTube, people are actively searching for an answer to something.
Yeah.
Right. So that is where you should be advertising. But you've got an uphill battle because YouTube is like incredibly difficult because of the way that the algorithm works. You are not going to, unless you've done something completely original, something brand new that no one has ever seen before, and it's absolutely incredible, you're not going to get a YouTube viral video.
To catch them within a certain amount of seconds, probably, I think, as well, if they are going to go on a short, like.
But I'm talking about long form here.
Yeah.
So like long form, you have to be like just absolutely 1 in a billion to get a long form YouTube viral video.
Viral,
and it's got to be something
what's
that no one's ever
considered
seen
viral
before.
on YouTube now? Like, what's your highest grossed video in views? Would you know?
I've got a couple that are well performing. But again, the thing with YouTube is once you've uploaded a video, as long as you stay active on YouTube, those views can maintain.
Yeah.
And they'll keep trickling in. And you can put like, I've had this loads of times, like one of my best performing videos I uploaded and it was an absolute flop. And then literally it was about 9 months later, it just went off.
Just found its audience.
Because I can imagine if I, as a customer, I'm looking for a car charger. So go on to YouTube and car charger options. If I type that in, you're going to be in the top 10 installing a car charger. You probably installed maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 different chargers. So automatically you're going to go, well, right, I've seen the Zappy charger, right, we'll go on to the next one. Oh, Adam's doing a Hypervolt in the next one. And then next one he's doing whatever other charger it is. So that's how you keep the views going, because you've got such a range.
Yeah, variation. And also the variety of jobs. So the other problem is people go on there because they found out that their installation is not a standard install.
Yeah.
And there's an obstacle in the way and they need to find a solution again. Right. So back on YouTube, oh, look, this guy's made a video of the impossible job that no one else wanted. Sounds familiar. Let's watch that. Right?
Yeah.
No way. That's like exactly the same as my house.
Yeah.
He's done it there. I wonder if he'll do it at mine. I'd done one video where I was using some existing ducting in new builds, and it was a classic. The centre of the consumer unit was in the middle of a house, all rooms around it, but they had a ducting there and a 2.5mm armoured cable going underground into the garage where it's fed a consumer unit. And then I managed to rod a new cable through that ducting to get a bigger supply out to the garage to do their EV charger for them. Made a video on it. Literally, I probably had about 5 or 6 running jobs after that of exactly the same thing.
In the same estate probably as well.
Does that cut out? does that cut out the whole back and forth when it comes to the haggling for price then? Because they're looking for a specific type of job and they've seen you do that specific type of job, which means that your skills are needed. So nobody's coming to look and really haggle you for price, or you've got a price and you're worth it.
What they've seen is that I've done it before. They're not talking to someone who said, I'll give it a go. Right. And that's the difference. They've already got the confidence in me because they've seen me do it.
Yeah.
So that's a really good foundation.
I'm gonna step in here. I feel like we've Benjamin buttoned this episode.
A little bit.
So we've gone from debt and pensions, and we're working our way back.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cut it in the bud here, and I'm gonna do what we normally do.
Right.
We're gonna take the step back because I feel like we're going in reverse here.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes different's good.
Different's good. Yeah. No, I've been enjoying it, but like it's itching at me. I need to know where it all started from. What hospital you were born in. So usually what we do is we take the step back and we talk about your upbringing.
Yeah.
And that how was life for you in the UK growing up?
Very good. I was extremely lucky to be brought up with 2 incredibly hard-working parents who'd done absolutely everything they possibly could for me and my sisters. Hard-working, like just inspiring how hard my parents both worked. It was absolutely incredible.
What did they do?
Work for themselves. Dad's got a better story than me.
We get him in next. On the next trip.
Season 7, episode 1.
So he's had many businesses, all varied in different things. And it's really just watching him do what he's done has showed me that you don't have to do the same thing. And there's lots of ways of making money, even if you've got no experience in it. So that's been an eye-opener for me, because I very much have the attitude of, if someone said to me, you can't do that, my answer is, well, why not? Tell me why I can't do that, and I'll show you that I can. Because you can do anything. And this goes back to even the education system, which we were talking about earlier, and the fact that my grades were not great. I basically beat the system with that by just memorizing revision guides in order to get my grades. But you only need good grades to get a job.
Yeah.
When I went out on my own, I realized that in order to advertise my business, I didn't need any sort of qualifications in advertising. To do the accounts for my business, I didn't need to do any sort of qualifications in accounts. So as long as you're going to work for yourself, or if you're going that way, you just want to do that, don't worry too much about your grades. You can be great at lots of stuff without a qualification inside it. And if I was working with people, the more value to me is experience over than what a bit of paper says. Because I want to know if you can do the job, or a bit of paper says you can. Because they're two completely different things.
Well, the academic system is drilled towards a mainstream process that is pushing people towards college, and it's to try and, focus on a percentage of students that are going to go in a certain direction, and they're going to give them the best possible chance to get there. And often a lot of the other students who could be a bit diverse in their interests or how they learn or how they go about learning, that could be got through neurodivergency, through ADHD, dyslexia, autism, anything like that. Like, everybody has a different way of learning. And depending on how they go about learning or how they get support in that, if it's through parents, if it's through grinds, or if it's through other students even that can come in and link in and work with you with the types of learning, everybody gets the opportunity to go in the direction that they need to go in life. And it's just being able to tell people that, like what you said, don't bog yourself down on the academics and the paper and the certificate. Show people what you can do.
Yeah.
Show people your potential and put yourself on that pedestal to make yourself known. And I think it's a great message to share to anybody who's listening or watching this podcast, that just because, you might have failed your maths exam at summertime or Christmas time or junior cert, or I don't know if it's A levels in the UK, that it's not the end. You know what I mean? That you have to be able to focus and put yourself into a mindset that if you have a goal that it's achievable, just find a way to get there,
I think it's okay to be the what about this way guy. So with school, it's right or wrong. This is how you do it. And if you don't do it that way, you get a mark against you, right? But there's, as you know, when you grow up, there's always two ways to do something, always, minimum. And if you don't know how to do it, you just ask someone else for some help. And I don't like that about exams, because if they're all, general learning, if I don't know how to do something, like if I don't know how to do something now in the electrical world, I can ask you. You might have more experience in it. I haven't failed.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just asking you for some help.
Yeah.
And you can't do that because you're just wrong. And I don't like the fact that it has still that, prehistoric sort of way of teaching, as far as I'm concerned. And also there's no one is encouraged to be ambitious. No one is teaching that. And other key things that aren't taught, like everyone leaves school and no one knows what an interest rate is or how that works, what a mortgage is. They're the life skills you need to be taught, as far as I'm concerned. And you go out in the Wild West, basically, and it happens to loads of kids. They'll just get offered credit cards, run up loads of debt, store cards. See it all the time. Or it did years ago anyway, when I
Do you
was
think
younger.
that our generation is that generation now that would have been bet down in school, and that we can see now what happened to us through our school life, and that now even on social media, the likes of yourself and us and everybody else who's been more open on social media and willing to share with each other can actually realize that that's how it should be, and we're nearly creating a new generation or a new avenue of education through social media rather than the mainstream schooling.
Yeah, definitely. And I was always that kid when I wasn't very good at maths. My answer was, can I use a calculator? The teacher said no. I said, why not? She said, because you won't always have one on you. Guess what?
I do.
Right? So why not let me use the tools that are around me?
Now we've got an AI friend as well to answer any
Adam's
questions.
right in what he's saying, the prehistoric kind of ways of teaching. Like, I can remember any time there was a test coming up, it was like you either knew it or you didn't know it. And if you didn't know it, you were either just going to get it wrong or you were going to try and cheat to get it right.
Yeah.
And it's the same in life now when you're tasked with doing something. I'm not like that, but there is people that are like that. Even the older generation would be worse, afraid to ask anybody how to do anything.
Yeah.
And I find now, because we're on social media and stuff like that, a lot of the younger generation, there's no problem with asking.
No, there isn't. And one thing, I really encourage people to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And you're not encouraged to make mistakes in school. Like a mistake is like the best thing you can do in my eyes. Make as many mistakes as you possibly can, as quick as you can, and you are going to progress fast because you only learn from mistakes. So get them out of the way. Make as many as you can, and you're going to do better. Don't think like, oh, I've not done that right. This is the end of the world. It's not. Like, take the information from that, and you're not going to do that again. So far, I've managed to get through my entire life making a hell of a lot of mistakes, and not a single one I haven't been able to fix.
Yeah.
Right?
You learn more from those mistakes.
Yeah.
100%.
None of them have led to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have they? So why be afraid of making a mistake?
Yeah.
Give something a go.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it right, or if it goes wrong, you're just going to learn from that.
If you're not making a few mistakes, I don't think you're trying enough.
You're not trying.
You're not trying enough to new things, and you're not pushing yourself.
No.
So we've done it. We've made mistakes even with the podcast. Like, you start from the ground up. People will tell you, what are you doing that for? Why are you doing that? You know, shouldn't be doing it this way, shouldn't be doing it that way. And we say, thanks very much. Thanks for telling me that. We'll do it differently the next time. And we did. And you just grow and you grow and you grow. And like what you said, once you're putting yourself out there and you're putting yourself in the game, there's always a chance of winning. And if you're just going to sit back and give up, what's the point in it all?
You can't give up, because there's so many people that give up when they were so close to the finish line.
Yeah.
But they just didn't know it. And all they had to do was that little bit more.
Or ask the question. It's mad. Like, you think back like to the school days, like if you were thinking of yourself, like say coming into your teens, would a trade have been on your mind coming into your teenage years?
Not at all. No, when I was growing up, our house, there was always something to do. So every Saturday and Sunday, I was working with my dad, fixing up the house. It was just every Saturday and Sunday till about 1 o'clock, I was working with my dad. So I learnt an awful lot of different skills through that experience. Career-wise, I always wanted to be a pilot. Right? That was never going to happen because I didn't have the right letters in the box or the numbers given to me by my teachers. You know, but and this is the ironic thing now. I can go and be a pilot now if I pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's only because I needed those correct numbers or letters in that box in order to get the job, to learn how to fly.
Yeah.
Nothing got to do with if you could actually do it or not.
No, exactly. Not to do if you could do it or not. So, and now as you get older, the paths change. And this is, so you can do anything that you want to do. It might cost you.
Yeah.
You might have to work damn hard to get there, but you can do it. There's no one stopping you. So yeah, that's that.
Any other hobbies or passions?
I've always had a lot of energy and I've never been good at sitting still. So
You can see that, yeah.
from a young age, I was always in the gym. So constantly exercising all the time. Absolutely loved it. Was a proper gym rat. That all sort of stopped really when I started working for myself because all of my energy was in that, like all of it.
Yeah.
So that's what took over that. I still exercise and train now, but it's not a priority to me like it was when I was in school or in my younger years because I had a job and that was my hobby. Now, building my business or growing me or my brand, that is my hobby.
Does that stimulate you more than the working out did at that time? Like, were you working out to stimulate yourself mentally or physically, or is it the likes of the YouTube now and working as an electrician and blending those two together? Does that stimulate you as much as the working out did just to work out?
I think the workout before it was a hobby, a release, something to do, and a social. Now I go to the gym.
Maintenance.
Maintenance, yeah. Diet matters now.
Yeah.
But now I go to the gym like crack of dawn in the morning, and it's the only time my phone doesn't ring. So now the gym for me is my time, my quiet time, and I can reflect on what I'm going to do and achieve that day. That's what it is for me now. So it served a different purpose. I'm not going there now to be the strongest man in the world. Don't care. This is just or how I look. Don't care about that to anyone else anyway. This is purely for me to reflect and give myself my calm ready for the day.
Would you find that if you didn't get to the gym in the morning to have that time, that your day would be different?
I would just, I don't know if it would be different because I can't always still go to the gym. Like I couldn't go this morning because I was up too early to get here. It hasn't affected me. I know I'm going to go over the weekend. So again, you can't, I just don't let things like that bother me anymore.
Yeah.
The airport's a workout anyway, isn't it?
Love an airport. I love it. I honestly love
Get the steps in.
it's flying.
Did you come with Ryanair?
Love it.
Ryanair?
No, Aer Lingus.
Ah, nice.
Premium.
Premium. Yeah, it's not
Is
as,
that premium?
it's not as long a walk, I don't think.
Yeah.
You didn't get your steps in this morning, so
But I love flying. Pilot. Loved it.
Yeah,
Right.
so
So I love it.
phone's not on either.
Phone's not on.
Better not be anyway.
Airplane mode. But would you have gone to your father and asked him for any advice during your teen years about going into the trades, or would that have been a decision that would just have solely been yours?
My dad always, and still does, wants the absolute best for me. So my dad was an electrician when he left school down Portsmouth Dockyard. And then he went into the drawing office and he progressed into all sorts of like petrochem, design, all sorts of stuff. But like any good parent, you always want your kids to do better than you. So he never encouraged me to be an electrician because he always believed not that an electrician's a bad job, but I could do maybe something a bit better than what he done when he was younger because he's been through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You always want to step up. You want your kids to do better than you, don't you?
Yeah.
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 So it's not that being an electrician is a bad job, because it's not. But he thought maybe I could have stepped up and gone engineering maybe if I was going down this road rather than doing the electrician bit first.
Okay.
Would you find out with Callum? Would you have that? Like, obviously Callum's coming into teenage years now. Would you have that hope from not to sort of follow in your footsteps, or would you love the fact that he would follow in your footsteps?
I look at it a little bit differently. I think I have a decent life. It's like I can't complain about anything. I wouldn't complain because you see the state of other people's, you know, lives, upbringings and stuff like that. Callum has a good upbringing. We get him to work, so he works with me the odd time. So like you and your dad, he comes and works. He likes it. He wants to be an electrician, but I'm not forcing him to be an electrician. And then the other thing about it is the only advice I gave him was, I finished, as you know, you were the same, I think. I finished school on a Friday and started on the Monday, my apprenticeship. So my only advice to him, the only thing I don't want him to do is start the week after he's finished school.
Yeah.
I want him to have an experience before he... Now, he'll have to work for that experience, if you get me.
Yeah.
He'll have to do Saturdays. I'll make him work, you know, before he finishes school.
Yeah.
So he knows what it's like to work.
Yeah.
But I want him to have an experience. I want him to go somewhere for 3 months.
And that's because you didn't do that, right?
Because I didn't do it.
Right. So
only one little regret I have, maybe, about my... But other than that, if he becomes an electrician, a plumber, no problem as long as he's happy.
Yeah. Well, my dad's like not disappointed in me anyway. He's exceptionally proud of what I've done.
100%, yeah.
But it's like I say, it's just like that one thing for you. You want your son to have that one thing extra that you didn't have, which is that break.
Yeah.
It's just that one thing.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like, if I had a son and he wanted to be an electrician, that's fine. But there's things that I wouldn't want him to do.
Yeah.
So I was down as I worked for a massive company and we were traveling electricians. So every job I went on was like a 2-hour plus drive each way. And you had to travel it. There was no digs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Right. And it was exhausting doing all that driving and all that site work every single day.
Leaving in the dark and coming home in the dark.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want my son to do that.
Yeah.
I would want him to do better, just work, have a local job or whatever, you know, if you're going to do that. You don't have to do that. There was many a time that I nearly fell asleep at the wheel just because I was just absolutely shattered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was nothing else I could do. And I had to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I would want that improvement to be made.
You make a good point there. It's not that I do or I don't want him to be an electrician. It's I want him to try something different.
Yeah.
The same as your dad. He wants you to try something different.
Yeah. You land where you're supposed to land.
Yeah, you would.
I remember like
A plain pun there.
I just remember you bringing that up there because I was similar to Keith. Like I remember being on the site like while the leaving cert. So in Ireland you do a leaving cert. So I don't know if you have A levels and then you have your like is that what age? 16 is A levels, is it?
No, that's college.
That's college.
So
yeah.
GCSEs.
GCSEs.
Yeah.
So we have leaving cert then, which is the A levels, and I would have done my leaving cert or the A levels equivalent in the UK. But I had my start as an electrician. I got my start and I started like Keith said. So on the day that everybody else in the year was going to get their results, I sent my mother down to get them because I was working.
Yeah.
And she rang me at lunchtime and said, Stephen, you got this, and this. You've passed. And I was like, right, I'm working now. What does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
You know? But then I'm listening and I'm seeing, you know, the conversations on Facebook, or I think it was Bebo at the time.
Bebo.
Everybody was going off on their, you know, leaving cert holidays, you know, off to Lanzarote or Magaluf or whatever it was, Ibiza.
Yeah.
And I'm there working on site, you know. So I'm trying to pave a career for myself straight off the bat. And it does hit hard, like when you think of that like that. Maybe you didn't have to commit to something so early. Like maybe you had to not find yourself like spiritually, but you have to just find yourself, you know, personally, like to just give yourself a minute to reset.
Yeah, but also I think that's a great thing to reflect on and say, I may have missed that opportunity. It may not have been good, actually. You may not have enjoyed it. So for that 6 weeks or whatever that those people are having a jolly, have that at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring it back. Like,
Bring it back. Do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's an interesting one. It's just like you can reflect. You can reflect on stuff, but try to not let it bog you down because you can be sour about it.
Reflect. Don't regret.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? You shouldn't have any regrets. You can only learn from that.
Yeah.
You always do things that you wish you never done, maybe, but all you can do is learn from that and teach someone else your mistakes. That's all you can do. I don't regret anything because every single thing I've done has paved the path to where I am now. And if I had changed any of that, I might not be here. So I don't regret anything
Apprenticeship.
of life.
What was that? We're getting deep here.
Yeah.
What was your apprenticeship like? Who's your first boss?
So I got my job again, and massive thank you to my mum, because she worked for an electrical mechanical company, and that is how I got my job. Basically, I was not doing anything, didn't know what to do, and I had an opportunity to speak to my mum's boss. Done an aptitude test, and then they asked if I wanted to be a plumber or a spark.
Too clever to be a plumber anyway.
And well, yeah, they said even if it doesn't work out, you can be a plumber. So that's that. So
You're a pilot.
the thing is, what's weird is I didn't know anything about electrics whatsoever before I got into it. Like nothing.
Even from your father, never passed anything down at all.
That was on purpose.
It was like the one thing though that I think we never actually done. Loads of woodwork, you know, or, you know, building work, all that sort of stuff.
Proper manual labour. Like
Yeah, but not that. So I was like brand new. And I remember my first day on site, massive building site, never had a high vis or a hat on before. And I was just like, what is going on?
Where am I?
No idea. And I just spent 2 weeks carrying cable back and forth from a container to the site. People just going 2.5. Right. And that was that. And I was absolutely brand new, knew nothing. So it was an interesting world at the same time because it was something brand new to me.
But was it okay for you? Did you think
the overall experience, like?
Yeah, did you like it?
The apprenticeship or the work?
The work at the start.
The work? Yeah.
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 No problem.
Not really.
Because we spoke a couple of times about the younger generation today. I think they'd have a bit of a lip on them if you asked them to do a couple of runs with a container and bring cable up to you.
Well, I think it was
probably
also
a machine for that now.
It was a bit different back then as well, because if you didn't do it,
Yeah.
you went and done it eventually.
Yeah.
So, you know, those times may now have changed, but you'd done as you were told.
Do it with a limp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got on with it. It's why argue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I'm there to learn as quick as I can. So just do that.
Was that all industrial work?
Mainly commercial.
Yeah.
Commercial, light industrial, at a touch. Really mainly commercial though. So that was what it was all about. Never went in a house. Never worked in a house until I went on my own. Had no idea.
It's a big change then, isn't it? Really, like to
Yeah,
come
it's
from
huge.
that type of work into domestic. Like, I jump in and out of maintenance now. Like, so I would have been sort of spoiled at the start of my apprenticeship. So I would have got a bit of the company that I worked in had a bit of a toe in every pool. So you'd get a chance to work with somebody doing apartments and domestic houses. You'd be working on shops, and then you'd go into a big hospital site, like you'd be doing tray and trunking and stuff. So I had the opportunity to take little bits of everything away from it, which I never found myself to be the master of anything, but I knew enough to get me through every different sector. And I was happy with that. I was happy to be good enough at every little bit of it, so that if I needed to move or I'd reached the limit within a certain company, I could say, you know what, I can move to that company now, and it'll work out for me.
Yeah.
It'll work out for me. But when you move away from it for so long, like I've gone in and I've done a couple of bits with Keith, like there, not too long ago, and you get into domestic, and if you haven't done it for a while, and you're thinking, shit, how am I getting that cable to that other side of this house without somebody seeing it, you know?
So I find that surprising that you worked in that sector and you're doing what you're doing now, because I know getting an EV or a PV cable in is it's probably the most challenging job you can do in a finished property.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised.
There's a couple of things that I found challenging, and especially one thing was when I went on my own. I will openly, happily admit this, that I struggled very much with fault finding. And that was because I had spent years and years and years on new builds. And I don't mean new build houses. I mean building sizes, new universities, prisons, accommodation blocks, MOD stuff, massive, but it was all new. You never had to find a fault.
There wouldn't be any faults.
There wasn't any. So moving into that domestic world, and then people had problems, I was like, I've never really done this before.
Yeah. That's the truth, yeah.
Yeah, simple as that. So that was a massive learning curve for me. And then the reason I had to go down a domestic route, and I went from there from HV, was I couldn't compete in any other market. You've got to remember, when I went out on my own, I wasn't prepared for it. I left one job one day and I worked for myself the next. So I had no client base. I had nothing. I can't just get commercial work. And also, I had no contacts in anything else because I'd Lawn Stewart, the company I'd done my apprenticeship with, was massive. It was so big, I had never even been in an electrical wholesaler until I worked for myself.
That's crazy.
Because all of the materials were always delivered on site.
Yeah, just a big truck just comes and just drops everything off you without
Into
asking.
the container.
Yeah, so it's just little things like that. So I walked into the wholesalers for the first time when I was like a proper experienced electrician, if you like.
Yeah.
I'd never been in a wholesaler before because I've never had to buy or order or ask for anything.
There's little tricks to the trade of how to even ask for something in a wholesaler.
Yeah.
And these are all things that would have been alien to you.
Yeah, I was absolutely almost intimidated, like walking into the place and there's all these blokes and they're like, oh, I'll just have this, and they're chatting away to people. And I'm just like, how do I buy stuff?
But pay for it now.
Yeah, honestly, it's like setting up accounts and stuff. Never had to deal with any of that because I never worked for small companies. You'd literally just ask your foreman, it's like there'll be containers full of gear. You just went and got it.
Yeah, it was just there.
Yeah, it was there. So it was little things like that. It was like a massive learning curve for me.
How was the working on HV?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Best job I've ever had. Absolutely loved it.
Was that something you sought out to work in?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you didn't land in it like out of, say, losing a job or anything, it was something that you sort of pursued?
So because I was working on these big new build construction sites, there'd be a team of guys that come on and they'll be putting in the supplies. They'll be the ones.
The A-team.
The rock stars.
Yeah, the rock stars. So they would come in, they'll be working in the feeder pillars, they'll be working at the substations, they'll be putting the 244 cores into the panels, and then obviously we just come off those. And I was like, I just want a bit of that. Really want a bit of that.
You just run the baby cables.
I just have this image now of like, the van pulling up like a BA Baracus and all getting out like dun, 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 dun. And you're just there looking at them, the lads rallying in the cables.
Well, they just worked on themselves. They didn't talk to anyone. There was just that their vans were kitted out, which I learnt later on with like all the cooking facilities. They had everything there on board.
I've seen a couple of the guys actually that work with, we work closely with the company that I'm with now with like ABB and like these guys, they pull up in their vans are proper set up for the job. Like,
yeah, self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Because you end up working in places when you're in that sort of game. You could be like literally in the middle of a field working on a transformer or HV switchgear or something, and there's nothing around you, right? So you need that gear to make yourself a cup of tea and have your lunch or whatever you're going to do. So it had to be a proper home workshop space area. So it was brilliant. And these guys,
was it those guys that you asked for the job directly to? Yeah.
So I never even spoke to any of them because I was pretty antisocial as a young man, especially as an apprentice. I just didn't really talk to anyone at all. So, but I wanted a bit of that. And then I found out obviously who they were. And then I phoned up the company and I asked them if they were looking for any electricians. And they were like, basically, well, we don't really employ electricians, but send us your CV anyway. So I sent a CV and then they gave me an interview, asked me really what I was there and what I wanted. And I just wanted to change and try something else. I wanted to, expand my knowledge and experience. And they were like, oh, okay, fine. And then that was it. I didn't hear anything for a good year. And then I got this phone call and they were like, do you want to come on? We need someone to do small wiring. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm there. No, straight in. Go on. What it turned out is in these GRPs, which house sometimes a switch gear, they needed lighting and power in there. And they needed an electrician to put sockets, lights in, test it, sign it off.
That was your way in.
That was my way in. That was my in. But that was like such a small aspect of the actual job. because once that was done, it was all like cable jointing, cable terms, HV maintenance, whatever was going on. So I was straight in with those lads, learning all those crafts and skills. And we had a team of lads, there were about 6 of us max. And it was absolutely incredible because we were all over the country, or Scotland, or wherever, Wales, all the time, working together, living together, day in, day out. And it was just like a unit. Loved it. It was incredible. You could be having like, it could be throwing it down, hailstones, everything, and we wouldn't care. We'd just be there with a cup of tea in a trench, doing a cable joint, having a laugh.
You're a part of the A team.
Loved it. Best thing ever.
So how did that then find it's like you finally got to the position then of SOTA? How did that go from that point to deciding, you know what, like I need to get out here and do something different?
Getting into HV, I took a pay cut. And I think that's what people need to appreciate as well, that if you want to further yourself, gain more knowledge and experience in a field that you don't know about, you need to take a hit, right? You can't do the job. I couldn't do the job. The small wiring part of that job was very little. So I couldn't do the job that that company was offering. So I had to basically retrain. So I took a pay cut from my job, retrained because I could see the potential in it. And then after years, I was doing the same job as the other lads. And I asked for that pay rise, which wasn't an option. I didn't have my tickets. For whatever reason, you know, I was working as hard and as good as the other lads. And he wasn't paying me more then, so he didn't really need to pay me anymore for that sort of thing. Or whatever was going on, I don't know. But the answer was no anyway. And I said, okay, that's fair enough. I'm going to have to go because I need to make more money.
Do you still see that period of your career as beneficial then?
100%, because I left that job and then I got another job doing panel wiring and things for another company, which I lasted a very short spell of time at. But during that, I had a phone call, and because that HV work and the cable jointing was really quite niche, it's quite hard to find people to do it.
Yeah.
So they said that they needed someone on my back, and I said, yeah, okay, I'll come back, but I want the same money as the other lads. And then we came to the agreement. Basically, it was a 0-hour contract, and I dipped out of the pension fund. And that was cool with me because I just needed the money at the time because I was trying to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
Right, putting money in a pension won't get me a mortgage.
No, definitely not.
So that was the goal. So I went back there, back in a job I love for a couple more years, but I was on this 0-hour contract. 0-hour contracts don't last forever. Yeah. And we had this quiet period, and I was just told one day on a Friday, we're too quiet. Thank you.
0-hour meaning they're not obliged to fill your week.
Do you not know what a 0-hour contract is?
No.
They were very popular here during the recession.
So
a lot of people
in that industry. Do you know what I mean?
But now they became very, very popular during the recession here in Ireland, and a lot of people were put on them, and they were very controversial.
Never heard of it.
Right, so 0-hour contract is basically, if I employ you for 0-hour contract, I can say to you, you've got a full week of work this week, but next week we've got nothing. I'm guaranteeing you 0 hours of work.
Take what you get.
Right, but it also swings both ways. So I could say to my boss, I'm not coming in next week because I haven't guaranteed him 40 hours a week or whatever either.
Okay, right.
Right, it never really went that way.
Oh, obviously, yeah. It was all for the employer, obviously.
But so that's how the 0-hour contract scheme worked. Anyway.
Okay.
So
shit, basically.
Varies, because if you wanted some flexibility, you could have it. Right? If you, it's almost like you had the freedom of working part-time if you were in that financial position.
Yeah, true.
But did you ever put yourself into the position to make it benefit you? That's the difference. Like a lot of people are in our positions, are in our roles. We want the work, don't we?
But the thing is, because it was 0-hour contract, you also got no holiday pay.
Yeah.
Right. So I just
didn't be working
all the time. I just stopped. I didn't stop all the way through. So, and that was just my mentality.
No overtime.
Overtime, it didn't. There wasn't really overtime.
Yeah, I suppose that's put in place more to say we're probably not going to have enough work for you at some stage.
Yeah, so you got no guarantee for that or anything whatsoever.
Yeah. Tough.
Yeah, but it was fine. I agreed
Yeah.
to that. So anyway, the day came where they said, "This is your last day," and I said, "Thank you very much. Absolutely loved it. And if you need me back, let me know. I'm up for it." Then I went home, saw my missus, and just said, "Well, I'm never working for anyone else ever again." So my next day was my first day self-employed or unemployed.
The way you want to look at it.
Yeah, well, I'm still unemployed.
well, how quick did
True.
the name come around?
Very quickly. So SOTA came from my dad had a company called SOTA Training. And I wasn't really messing around with making names. And my dad said, "Why don't you call it SOTA Electrical?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, that'll do."
It's a nice
Which stands for,
State of the art.
which I never knew.
So
it's a tip to the hat to him though as the years go on as well.
It's nice.
isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
nice to have it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it was sort of like keeping a family thing going as well. So again, though, the name doesn't really matter. You could call yourself Flower Pot Electrics. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No.
The name's not going to get you work necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when people bed down so much on making a business logo, doesn't matter. Some of the best logos in the world is literally like a G or something like that. You know, it's so simple. As long as it's like recognizable, that's all right. So just don't waste time with that sort of stuff.
Do you think?
Get cracking.
Do you think people restrict themselves when they use their own name for their like electrical company, plumbing business? Do you think they restrict themselves? For instance, if there was a guy in Dublin that called himself Murphy Electrical,
Yeah.
do you think he's restricting himself?
I don't see why. Why would he restrict himself?
Do you think it sounds more local than like a nationwide name?
I would have probably, this day and age, sort of spun it
Yeah.
to Murphy's.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's more, and it's more casual now as well. People like casual names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have necessarily called it Murphy's Electrical.
Yeah.
Just
But-
Murphy's.
Murphy's.
It can work both ways because like you nearly think that some
Bit of
people
trust in a name
yeah,
as well.
just trust. It's like, you know, sometimes local's good and at the same time sometimes people are afraid like, just like, well, I won't get that big crowd to come out to me.
I don't think
That was. I'm only asking because
no, it's
I
interesting.
was like, do I call my company Delahan Electrical,
Yeah,
or do I call it something that's a bit more universal? So like I sat for hours, like you said, it's probably no need, but I sat for hours and said, well, what do we do as electricians when we're connecting a house? We like here we say we energize it, so that's why I picked energize. But I always thought. Then I always look at my dad and say, like, would he have liked me to call it Delahan? Just
And
you know, for the-
I've never seen another Delahan Electrical going around though.
that's such a, yeah, that's the other thing, yeah.
There's always time to change, you know.
it's also,
When this one goes under, we'll call it Delahan.
but you can use clever marketing as well. So if you include like a symbol, like for you guys, you've got Insight Strip Back podcast, right?
Yeah,
Would I know your podcast by just looking at a red mic,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So it's not always about the name.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's about how it's presented and marketed and repeated.
Like what you said with the G, it could be a D, and it could be just something recognisable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something to stand out like. But
it's a bit of help for anyone that's going out on their own.
you mentioned there, Adam, like coming over to Dublin even, and you know, for what might be a break for some people is an opportunity to put themselves into a mode of not work but like productivity. So like you spent a lot of today editing.
Yep.
What does that kind of day look like for you? Like when you're trying to plan out your week, you know you've got a bit of work to do. You know that part of your business is promoting yourself online. How do you balance out the work and the editing?
So, well, I don't see my working day as 9 to 5. My working day is 24/7 because that's what I'm doing. If there's something to do, do it. Why sit around and basically prevent yourself from progressing when you could just do a little bit? So, and there's potential in everything that you do. So with the editing that I've done all afternoon today, there's potential for a great video. So I could have gone around Dublin and done the factory tours and all those bits and bobs, which would be lovely. But there's another time for that.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a goal and there's something to achieve. And because of the social media, what that's now allowed me to do is great things like come on your podcast, which gives me a platform then to once again promote myself and my business and my services and let people know who I really am and what I'm about.
Yeah.
So use all of these things to your advantage. So everything is business at the end of the day. It's all marketing. It's all promotion. No one is going to promote you as well as you will. They're not going to do it for you. No one's going to do anything for you. You have to do, if it's going to be the biggest effort, it's got to come from you. So that's really what I think about that.
When did the penny drop when in terms of social media and the marketing side? Was it tough at the start?
Well, I had no work.
Yeah. Was that the driving factor?
I had no work. I had no money coming in. I didn't have any savings and I had a mortgage to pay.
What year was this in? The business was set up?
So it was only, you've seen it from 2014, but it was a dormant company. So,
okay.
Right. So
okay. Yeah.
I knew years ago that it was something that I might potentially do.
Okay.
So the company was set up, but laid dormant. And then it was about 8 years ago that I went on my own and the dormant company then was activated and I was ready to go.
What a good idea. So you had the name and everything locked in.
Done.
Do you think that inspires you to actually do it eventually? Is that a good idea for anybody that's aspiring to do it but are procrastinating about it?
Well,
is that a good step?
Right, stop wasting your time procrastinating for a start.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. If there is an inkling that you want to do this, go out and do it. Because only you are stopping you.
Yeah.
No one else. I've heard all the excuses under the sun of I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got a family to feed, I've got no money, been there, done it, you can do it, I done it. If you've got nothing and you have commitments, you will work harder. You will do whatever it takes to make that work.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
Did you sacrifice a lot at the start?
I sold my personal belongings to pay the bills. And an interesting story, which I haven't really shared with many people, was that I had in the corner of my hallway a massive penny, like an old whiskey jar. Do you know the old massive big whiskey jars?
Yeah.
Had one of those and it was full of coppers. And me and my missus were living off those coppers.
Wow.
So, but it was like the drive. I was like, I need to do something. So you just done whatever it took. I was just walking around the estate I was living on, leaflets through doors, everything, just to do anything. And then from that, you'd learn quickly about marketing and you need to be different. You need to do something differently. How can you do that? And then obviously the social media stuff started coming about. It's like, here's a platform. I don't have to pay for it. I can show people stuff. I can post pictures. I can show everyone exactly what I'm doing. Have a look. Do you like it?
How important is it to have a partner like yours or like Keith's or anybody else that's going out like self-employed, seeing your dream or your goal and knowing that, you know, you have the ability to get it to come to fruition?
I'm a believer of behind every good man is a good woman, right? And my partner, she just believes in me. She never says no. And I work relentlessly. I give up so much time trying to push, but she can see a potential in it. She can see a future in it.
Yeah.
And she believes in me. And if you've got someone that believes in you, then it just like drives you even harder to try and succeed and do better, not just for you, but for them as well. So that's super important to me. She's amazing, really supports me and never questions anything that I ever do. If I'm like I said, I'm going to Ireland to do a podcast, great, go and have a good time.
See you when you get back.
See you when you get back. And that's what it's all about.
No, I definitely second that one because Yeah, partners can be restricted.
They
Can
can
be
be.
restricting. Yeah,
Very.
yeah.
definitely.
Some people just not that they're restricting. We might have had a bit of that. You know, the procrastination. Like I waited maybe 6-7 years too long. Always want. That's why I was asking you about the name of the company.
Yeah.
If you, because I know you can obviously you can lock down the name.
Yeah.
You know, get the name locked down, and that can probably push you along. But it's there is a fear when you're taking that step. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
And it might not work.
Yeah, there is. But there's also taking the step and being forced to take the step, isn't there?
Yeah.
So,
Forcing yourself to take the step.
yeah,
as
but
well.
also, if you have no job, like I had no job,
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't looking for another job. My
Yeah.
goal wasn't to move companies or anything else.
Yeah.
It was just goodbye. That was that.
Yeah.
And I could have gone and got another job as an electrician, but I decided not to. This is, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
I've got no plan, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Do you suffer fools?
Do I?
Do you suffer fools? Like, or do you let people, and their opinions drag you down at all?
I don't care.
It's the right way to be, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're going to say,
Is that refreshing? Like, it's refreshing to hear you speak like that, because
Yeah.
I know for the likes of myself and Keith, like, you can overthink a lot of stuff. You can overthink a lot of
Someone else's opinion.
someone else's opinion. Yeah.
if you're going to put me down, I would say, I will shake your hand, say thank you very much. We're never going to see each other ever again. You don't need to be in my life. So I want to surround myself with positive people who are going to encourage each other and who want to better each other. You push each other to do better, champion everyone. I want you to have the best podcast ever. Go for it, do it, build your dream. I'm never going to say to you, don't do that.
Yeah.
So, and if someone doesn't, I get, all sorts of comments on Facebook about, or whatever platform about you doing this wrong and that looks this and that looks, or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know you. Doesn't matter. Block, delete, goodbye.
Yeah.
Simple as that. You won't see my content ever again. You're not the right audience for me. Simple as that. You're in control of this. Don't care what anyone else thinks. Identify who the people are that are important in your life and focus your attention on them. Their opinion matters. No one else's does. Only the people that you love and care about are the opinions that should matter in your life. Don't care about people you've never met, never seen, don't even know their name. Why does that matter? Who are these people? It doesn't matter.
I think he's got a spot on, hasn't he?
I know, 100%. And I think a reaction to people like that is only letting yourself down.
If the worst thing, it's not even the worst thing that I would do. If someone is over the top nasty to me, my response to them, if I'm going to response, is, are you okay? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's Friday night. It's like, and you're sat on your phone having a go at me, right?
For putting a cleat upside down.
Yeah. Is everything okay? Is this the most important thing that's going on in your life?
Do you know that screw loose that you were giving out about? Is that something that's going on with you? Is that what you're going to ask them?
So I'm just like,
Yeah.
for you to focus all that attention and go out of your way to be nasty to someone that you've never met is just absolutely madness in my eyes. And if you really do have a problem with me, drop me a text. Yeah?
We'll sort it out.
But if you don't have my phone number,
You're not worth talking to me. Yeah.
you don't know me well enough to have a problem with me,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Simple as that.
Where do you see it? Well, sorry, where do you see the whole social media and the business combination together? Where do you see yourself taking it? Like, do you see yourself working as an electrician for the rest of your career, or is there future goals?
I never went out of my way to become an electrician, so I'm not going out of my way to finish it that way either. There's so much opportunity out there. I never thought that I'd make a penny on social media. That's absolutely madness in my eyes. And it just makes you think, well, what else can I do? I'd personally love to be a pilot. I'd love that, but I wouldn't work for anyone else. I'll never do that again.
So to air.
So rare. And I'd have that, and I'd have my own little plane, and I'd just do what I wanted with it.
Yeah.
It'd be my business if I was going to do something like that.
€50 flights back and forth to Ireland.
But you know what? Why can't I do that? Who's stopping me doing that? Me, only me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't intend to be one of these guys who's just been a spark for forever. Not when I have the opportunity to try and do lots of other stuff. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not give it a go? No one's stopping anyone. You're only stopping yourself.
Oh, 100%.
You're your own gatekeeper, aren't you?
It's a good lesson for any. It's a good lesson for anyone, isn't it? I was going to say for young people, but like
Any stage.
no, even more so for people that are, you know, middle aged. Like, cop the fuck on. Like, you know, you can do what you want. Like, a lot of people get into the stresses of the, you know, showing up to work, getting into the grind, and life just pass you by.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You don't want to let that happen, really, because
No,
you
definitely
regret
not.
it. There's a lot of regret. Like, you don't want to be that person that's sitting in the chair, you know, 60, 70 years of age, like, you know, coming into retirement and saying, geez, I have regrets, you know.
And how many people have done that? And how many people keep doing that? So how about maybe listen to these people and take a bit of advice?
And like, how many, like, we all know people that have, especially men, that have taken their lives because they've been stuck in such a rut. Like, I've had family members and old best friends take their lives because they've literally just give up, stuck in a rut, feel like they couldn't change things, and just along with other things, like, but
They just weren't told that they could do something else, you know.
yeah, or I got the wrong guidance, like.
And that's like, you know, for me personally, I could never imagine myself in that situation, because I really believe that you can, any problem can be solved. It literally can. You might need some help.
Yeah.
You just need to talk to someone and ask them.
Yeah.
But someone will help you. If you need help, someone will help you. If anyone has an issue with anything, ask me, I'll help you. If I don't know you, I'll help you. Let's have a chat.
That's it's like a 360, literally back to the start of the interview where we spoke about in school, you know. Just
Benjamin Button things coming around again.
just be willing to ask the question and be willing to ask for help.
Yeah.
You know, and it just is that avenue to might just spark something within somebody to say, do you know what? It might not be as bad as I think it is.
And sometimes when you do say things out loud and you listen to it, you realise it's not really that bad.
My mother used to say to me, you know, especially like she'd see me with a bit of anxiety and all going to school when I was younger over exams and stuff, similar to what you mentioned at the start, you know, about like, how am I going to get through this exam, you know? And she used to say to me, like, you know, might never happen. You know, what's the worst that can happen, you know? And it literally is that, like, you know, you can overthink things so much, like, that it just gets inside like a cancer and it just eats away at you. And it's speaking, just words, you know, saying something that just makes it so much better. The mother saying something to you, or a partner saying something to you, or you even
The
saying
social
something.
media side, like, that's it. That's game changer. Do you find that that's helped you? I know, obviously,
Community,
the community side of it.
Yeah, definitely. The community's been great, and I do as much as I possibly can to engage and help as many people as I can through that. The compliments and the nice comments that people have said to me is brilliant, and what I really want to do is help as many people as I possibly can, because I don't see anyone as competition. No one's my competition, and I'm no one's competition, because when it comes to social media, you are your brand and no one can replicate that.
Yeah.
You cannot be me.
Yeah.
I cannot be you. So we're doing different things.
Yeah.
And our audiences are always going to be slightly different.
Yeah.
But we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
I can get some tips from you,
and
you can get some tips from me. It's still going to go in slightly different directions, but we'll all grow.
And we'll all succeed if we just support
Work
each other
together. There's been too much of, especially in years ago, when before the social media, and you'd have online forums. Now, I don't know if you ever went on an electrician's online forum, right? Relentless, absolutely ruthless, horrible people on there.
Yeah.
And you couldn't ask a question because you should have gone back to college and learned how to do
You're
that
an
properly.
electrician, you should know this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No help to anyone.
No.
So I'm not interested in those people. Right? I only want to talk and work with people who want to grow, get better, learn, bounce off each other, network. Everyone wins. Don't they? As simple as that.
It's a great positive outlook. You know, it really is like, and it's just everybody who has that outlook to try and use whatever platform that's available now to grow, albeit podcasts, Instagram, anything like that. If you can reach out and you can help one person along to further their career or further their own personal growth or professional growth, you know, you don't walk away at the end of it and say, I needed money for that. I needed, you know, to sell information to somebody in order to help them grow. It's out of the kindness of your heart, like, and that person should be able to take that bit of support that they've got from you or from anybody else that they've got it from, and then they'll be able to pass that down to the next person and the next person, and it's just going to help the whole community grow.
Usually a two-way street as well, like you said, can learn from each other.
Yeah.
You know, down the line, if there's something
You'll get it back.
that you need to know, that person's going to be the first going to try to help you.
Yeah, and that's it. And you just, again, you're almost building a family, a remote family.
Yeah.
I've got loads of friends through social media who I've never met, but we chat like we're mates.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an incredible thing. And then you get to go to the trade shows and you get to meet these people.
But nothing sure if you came up a technical barrier with something
Yeah.
that you're doing, maybe a new EV charger.
Yeah.
If you ever ventured into PV, whatever.
Yeah.
If there's any technical issue, if you
Yeah.
put it up on your socials, you will have that answer within probably 5 minutes.
Probably. Should we try?
Yeah, try it for the I'll send my questions on to you, maybe. You can give them back to me. But I did want to mention, we had a chat upstairs, and this is for anybody, I suppose, with their own company or self-employed. You kind of loosely outlined, I want to call it your business model in terms of handling clients, sticking to your price,
Yeah.
valuing your time and your worth,
Yeah.
and the way you like to approach every job.
Yeah.
So in terms of the job, if you're going to do a job, can you just tell our listeners what you told me in terms of how you do a job?
That job, the way when I walk into a customer's house, it no longer is their house in my eyes, it's my house. So I treat that job like I would in my house, and it's got to be the absolute best that I possibly can do it. And with that comes value. So it's all the little things. Like, again, when I win a job through social media, my client also has an expectation of what to expect from me. And that's no rushing the job whatsoever. It's all about running through the job. So the first thing I do is I will go to my customer's house, introduce myself, find some common ground, and then we will walk through the job, and I'll tell them exactly how I'm going to do it and at what stages I'm going to do it. So, for example, if it was an EV charger, I'm getting that cable run done first from the consumer unit to the EV charger, and we're going to discuss that route and agree on a suitable installation method that they're happy with and that is actually possible also.
Yeah.
The way it's fixed, where holes are going to get drilled, high, low, everything is all discussed. Get that job done, and then we're in agreement. And once that's done, I get my customer just to make sure that they are happy with everything that I've done. And then that also, we're building again like a relationship as we do this, and trust.
Yeah.
They can see that I'm doing the best I possibly can, and I'm looking for their approval also.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll go on to the next stage of the job, which might be the consumer unit. We're going to discuss where it's going, how I'm going to do it, what to expect. We're going to do that. I'm going to talk my customer through that, make sure they understand exactly what's going on there. I'm also going to give them plenty of time to arrange. Lots of people work from home now. So I'm going to give them plenty of notice and time where I'm going to be turning off the power if I need to turn off the power at all. I'll bring a battery bank with me. So if they're working from home, before I've even started the job or they've started work, let's get them their router on my battery. I'm not going to disturb them at all then, because people are working off laptops. They can just crack on. They've got battery for that.
Yeah.
So now we've got no disruption whatsoever to their work life at all. They haven't had to take half a day holiday or anything like that. It's all sorted.
Yeah.
And we'll also talk about this before. And I give them these options when they discuss about how long power's off and do I need to take time off work. Get all that sorted, get that bit done. Then we're out, get their approval. Then we're outside. We're going to discuss where the charge is going to go. Exactly. Just make sure they're absolutely happy with everything. Going to get that installed, run through everything. I'm literally going to show them how a breaker works and teach them about it, how they can isolate it if need be. We're going to go through all of these stages. Then we're going to go through the commissioning process. We're going to run through how everything works, how the app works, what to do if you have a problem. If you have no power, do this. If there's something wrong with the app, contact these people. Here's the contact details. Here's everything you need to know. Then I'm going to get all my paperwork done. Everything's done in a day. The whole lot, the job's wrapped up. And what you get from that is a very happy customer. I don't do more than one of those jobs a day because I'm going to put absolutely everything into that job. It has to be the best job that I can possibly do for that person.
Yeah.
No ifs or buts. If I come to a job and I'm struggling and I can't see a way of doing it, you've got to be honest with clients as well. I've done jobs where cable routes have changed and I've got to try and get somewhere through and ways that we didn't think had to happen. I've done a video on one where I literally chopped this customer's ceiling up. But I took him on the journey with me and explained everything and showed him, and then he was invested in it as well. And I was like, are we all in on this?
Yeah. Will we go for it? Yeah.
Yeah, we all in, or are we calling it a day? Because whatever I do, I'm going to fix.
Yeah.
He was like, we're all in. I'm like, great, love it. Right. I spent way too much time on that job compared to what I anticipated to do.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter because I needed to do the best job I could. It mattered to me as much as it matters to them.
Yeah.
I have to be able to sleep well at night knowing I've done the best job and it's safe and compliant.
Yeah.
Really important to me. So we went all in on this job and I hacked this bloke's ceiling to bits. Right?
We've all been there.
Yeah. But we got the job done. I patched the ceiling. I came back another day and I patched it, filled it. Then I came back. We rubbed it all down.
You sanded it as well.
Yeah, got all that done. He's sending me photos on the weekend, showing me it painted, showing me you'd never know you'd been here. So even after the job, the client's still invested, still super happy with how it's come out because you have to be all in on this and just do the best. And I don't compete with anyone on racing to the bottom because no one else is making the effort that I'm doing. And what I'm doing is I'm showing my customers what I'm capable of and what I'm going to do and what they're going to get from me. And it just gives confidence. So if you want to do the best job you possibly can, show it and put a value to it.
And that's you literally reflected that or showed me an email thread or I don't know if it was a text thread from a customer where there was a bit of price haggling that was getting involved.
Yeah.
And the person said, well, I'm going to have a look at this other person. Obviously, it's going to, price and timing is going to determine whether we go with yourself. And you kindly wrote back, well, if it's anything to do with price, I'm going to be the most expensive. But let me know. We're still here to do the job for you. And you got the job in the end.
Yeah, absolutely.
You stood your ground.
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm not there's a massive issue with pricing work as far as I'm concerned. And what we do is it's a really good job. And our job just gets harder and harder as far as I'm concerned because they keep banging in regulations. They keep telling us we have to do this and that. And then they keep bringing in new expensive equipment that we have to install.
Yeah.
And it's only us that learn about this and not the consumer. So when you turn up at consumer, you say, all of a sudden need you this extra protection. Your existing installation's not good enough anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, why not? It works. What's your problem?
Yeah.
And from a consumer, that is the thing. It's like, it works fine.
Yeah.
I don't know what your problem
You're
is.
making problems.
You're making problems. And it's not us making problems. It's actually other people overcomplicating things and putting a problem on us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's them making money. I understand business is business, but it's us who then have to almost pick up the cost.
Yeah.
And then we're seen as expensive and rip-offs. When we're not, we're just trying to pick up the pieces and win a job.
Yeah.
And we've had all these price increases.
Yeah.
So, but that is just another story completely. But you must value your time and what you're doing, because you'll be far better off doing 3 or 4 really good, high quality jobs a week than doing 10 crap ones
Yeah.
where you're going to get a call back.
You'll have a week of callbacks then.
Yeah.
The following week.
Brilliant insight, yeah. I was listening to the two of you and I'm like, Jesus.
No, I thought I was
it's great.
engrossed. I said,
Really
we're
good,
not going to finish
No.
this episode without going through that, because anyone going out on their own, if they keep that in mind. No, it's hard. It's hard at the start. You're trying to get jobs done, trying to get money in.
They'll get to that point eventually,
If you had that as a kind of a blueprint, it's brilliant.
Yeah, fair play to you.
Thanks for sharing that.
Listen, Adam, when we get to the end of every interview, we ask the most difficult questions of them all, and that's Spotify playlists. And each of our guests get to add one song onto the playlist, and we're quite interested to find out what your song choice would be.
Can you guess? From what you've learned from me, what do you think, or theme, or what sort of music?
It's going to be rock anyway.
We're going to go with Gimme Shelter, Rolling Stones.
Nice
one.
I think that's the first Rolling Stones going.
It is. It's the first, yeah. That's going to get them going as well.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Is that one that you'd have on in the van?
Just gives me the tingles.
Yeah.
Get you going.
You hear that the start of that song, and instantly I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
Right. The day is started.
Gives me that.
The nail gun is out.
Straight out.
Adam, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me and the opportunity to be on your podcast. I've loved it.
Yeah,
so much.
I really enjoyed it.
Have him back anytime, wouldn't we?
Anytime.
Oh, I got some other interesting stuff we can talk about.
Yeah, I'm delighted.
Till the next time.
Yeah,
the next time.
Thanks, Adam.
Take it easy.
Thank you.
Right, final overload segment of season 6 in the can.
Adam Stears, what a gentleman. Really enjoyed that interview. Me for one, because I've learned a lot off his YouTube channel over the last couple of years, and the content doesn't seem to be slowing up. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really good to, get the people in who you've watched and learned from through social media and YouTube and the likes, and it just goes to show how the industry and the electrical industry is going for the likes of us and, Irish electricians out there that are willing to put themselves out there on social media. And, it only takes one person to give you the first follow, and then look at Adam now. Yeah, no, he's killing it. And we really appreciate him coming over and making the trip over, because it's, it's no easy feat, and he's only recently got into doing podcasts and putting his name out there. So we're thrilled and we're privileged to have him over. Yeah. I guess we'll keep rocking on the episode. We've got Edel McSorley joining us now in the studio for the special guest interview segment. Let's jump into it. This episode is coming to you in association with Snickers Workwear Ireland. So jump on to snickersworkwear.ie, see what they have on offer, and find your local stockist. Edel, thanks for joining myself and Keith on the podcast. Delighted to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great to finally meet you. Stephen had the pleasure at one of the events, but great for me to finally meet you.
Yeah, and great to meet you both, and I'm very excited to be here, and thank you. Yeah, as I've mentioned before in other episodes, I went to an event last year. It was in Indeed. Brian Penny invited me, and there was individuals at it that included yourself and many others that we've actually had through the door of the podcast since, including Abdul, Barry, Caroline and Gay from Sulis. And to be able to get yourself in and utilise this platform and share the work that's actually going on within your company and within Open Doors Initiative and everything else that you are all involved in. I think myself and Keith are proud to be able to have this platform utilised in that sense, and we really thank you for coming on to share your story here today. So what we'll do is, before we get into the nitty gritty of it all and what is happening in the background, we like to take people, our guests and ourselves and our listeners back a bit and let them know a little bit about the guests and where they grew up and what their story is and where they got to
what they're doing today. So
No problem.
if you'd like to let us know a little bit about yourself and where you grew up and stuff like that, maybe a bit about your school life.
Yeah, I grew up in an area called Screen in County Meath. It's just outside of Dunshaughlin. It's a rural area.
Oh, yesterday.
Oh, really? Very good. Not too far from the Hill of Tara, so we take for granted what other people come miles and miles that come from other countries to see, and we never get it. So grew up there. I am the second youngest of 6. My parents are from the north of Ireland, and we just had a mad household. It was busy all the time. There was never time to stop. Chores were very important. Work ethic was very, very important. I went to the local school to begin with in primary school. School wouldn't have been my thing. I had a lot of energy. Yeah.
with this podcast.
Yeah, I do see the theme. I always like to ask questions. And that didn't really go down very well in the education system. Yeah. And then every now and again in primary school, you get a chink and you'd find a new teacher who realised that maybe projects would work better or something different would work better. And that still resonates with me, you know, and thinking when things aren't working out, is there another way of doing something? And I suppose that carried on into secondary school as well. If there was a sports event to go to, I went to it because I wasn't in the classroom. There was a few, like that as well, yeah, there was a few subjects I liked. Surprise, business, English, the ones that, you know, I would use today. But overall, it just wasn't my thing. And we do see that theme happening time and time again. It's a one-size-fits-all approach, and unfortunately, we're not all one size. Yeah.
Were you an ambitious child, or did it force you through family life to be a proactive child?
Our family was proactive and solution-based.
Yeah.
And that was the only way we were allowed to do things. But the ambition did start in my teens. So I would have been the one that always had money. And I had money whether I was running a childcare business or I was doing alterations, or there was always something there, and I was always able to pay my own way. So I suppose it was there, but we didn't recognise it as ambition. It was just a little bit of get up and go.
Yeah.
I never thought of babysitting as being a childcare business. I used to do that a lot.
I did a lot of that myself, yeah.
But it's something that a lot of people, I think nowadays with their kids, are missing. They're just coasting their way through their teens now and then getting into, you know, adulthood without any type of experience of work. Like, so I think the likes of yourself and myself and Keith, like going through any type of jobs, like Keith mentioned on the previous episode, you know, picking spuds and, you know, working in petrol stations, and, you know, I was working in clothes shops, and, you know, it's getting yourself in there and learning how life actually ticks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and we knew that if we needed money for something, we needed to earn it. So there was never going with your hand out, because that just wouldn't get anywhere. So you knew that, like, okay, where can I earn some money? So I suppose the ambition, was probably there, but it was hidden.
Yeah.
Were you a messer in school?
Oh, I was somewhere in between. I definitely wasn't the quiet one, but I wasn't the troublesome one either.
Somewhere in between. Yeah.
Somewhere in between.
Followed the herd.
I could definitely. I don't think I followed the herd. I might have led it, and I could lead it in either direction. That was the problem.
You mentioned there getting out and doing a bit of sports in school.
Yeah.
Would that being something that would have transitioned outside of school as well, with a bit of maybe sports and hobbies and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Again, I grew up in a GAA family. We didn't have a female team at the time, you know, so we're going back a good few years now. While I have a niece who has 2 All-Ireland medals for Meath, you know, so things have really changed, and not changed far enough, but things are changing. But yeah, there was always an interest, and that has carried through now. I think, you know, fitness might have saved me on a few occasions, you know, in terms of dealing with stress levels, and because I do take things in my stride. But if I wasn't, if I wasn't emptying the tank, you know, it just mightn't be as easy to deal with.
Was there any particular person or like family member that kind of shaped who you are? I know you mentioned you had a lot of sisters and brothers, so that obviously pushed you as well. But was there anybody in particular, even through secondary school that would have shaped who you are today?
I was very close to my dad, and unfortunately he died when I was 19. So he was a young man when he died. But he was a very, very interesting person. He had a very positive outlook on life. And something I spoke about before, because I only remembered it recently, was we weren't allowed to use the word can't. So can't or cannot was banned from the vocabulary in the house. So by the time you looked up the encyclopedias and the dictionaries and found other words that weren't accepted either, you then just found a way around things that, you know, there's no point in going to them and saying, I can't do that, because you'd be sent back. So that really, I do believe, shaped us, you know, to that kind of can-do attitude now. Yeah. And I find myself repeating that in work all of the time, that I just don't accept no. So it's like, okay, find another way or another way around it. But he was definitely a very interesting person in terms of how his approach was and how forward thinking he was. Now, at the time, it was just head wrecking. You just wanted to get out of doing something, and that was it.
There was no way out.
There was no way out, but he definitely taught us to work very hard.
What was his career background?
He was a builder. Right. So trades was in our family.
Yes, and that type of... We've had a construction episode last week. Kindregans were on, and they talked through like how it's in their blood, like good, and how it's built into their psyche, you know. And I think probably like that, like his daughter, like Tom and Ella were on last week, and it sort of blends into the family. So that type of word ethic and resilience and stuff sort of blends through the kids and everybody else around them, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, for my parents as well, who grew up in the north of Ireland when the Troubles broke out. You know, there was a completely different type of resilience. There was a type of resilience and hardship that we will never understand, as much as they try to educate us on it. We're just very privileged and very protected from it. Yeah. So they really did have those challenges, and hence why they moved out of the north as well. So, you know, to be able to bring a family up in peace. Family, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, like moving on from that then, you mentioned the go-getter attitude. What was your first job after leaving school?
My first job after leaving school was a Montessori teacher. So I went to
Into
college.
The fire.
Yes, I went to college and I trained, and I worked in probably for 3 years in that area. But at the time, and I don't think it's much improved now, wages in childcare were very poor. Yeah. So I was working part-time in retail. So that ended up transpiring into a full-time role. I eventually just bit the bullet. And I thought I was only going to leave it for maybe a year or 2 years. Yeah. But then I got the love for retail. Yeah. And I started going to college at night time, which went on for multiples of years. Only in the last 2 years or so, I haven't been studying.
Was that in Dublin?
In Dublin mostly, yes. Yeah. I then progressed, I suppose, through retail, went into wholesale for a period of time, and then landed with Mr. Price. So it was one of those things where I didn't know I wanted to go back to retail. I missed it, but I didn't know I wanted the hardship of retail. So when I got the opportunity to be HQ based, I thought, I'll do an office job for a little bit. But little did I know, the office job bit didn't last too long in terms of how versatile and how changeable that role would be. So when I joined Mr. Price, then I joined as a buying manager. Right. But I didn't have a team because we were a startup. With all startups, you have to put your shoulder to the wheel, and you have to do absolutely everything that needs to be done. With no rules or regulations within the stores, so we needed to start there. We needed to start building the business and getting the systems and practices in place. So eventually built up a buying team, but sure, at that stage I was semi-buying, semi-operations. So eventually the day came and the decision had to be made. I knew buying, I didn't know operations, and it was like a real challenge. And that, you know, that inner voice, that self-critic saying, you can't do this. You don't have the experience or the qualifications to do this. But luckily, the owner of the business, Declan, he's very encouraging and he gives everybody a chance. And with his help and getting a professional coach, who I had for a number of years, I was able to start to overcome those a little bit. They're still there.
That's supporting you at the same time. Like that's like, you know, any other company out there that you look at now want things now. And, you know, if you're not cutting the mustard, it's, you know, we'll just get somebody else in, but he was willing to back you and give you the support you needed.
Yeah. I'm sure you had your dad's voice in the back of your head as well saying, I don't want to hear you saying you can't do it as well.
Absolutely. You know, but there'll always be that bit in you that just says, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, oh, yeah, 100%.
So, you know, there's an awful lot of learnings in there. It was really good for the learnings, and we're still learning because the business keeps growing, and every time it grows, it changes.
Where was the first store?
The first store was in the Blanchardstown Shopping Centre. Right. Yeah.
A nice hot spot there.
Nice hot spot to try and develop and get staff settled and, you know, get people trained up and not accept bad practices and to say we have to start as we mean to go on.
Yeah.
But we didn't know what good practices looked like either.
I was going to say dipping the toe, but Blanchardstown Centre is going head first.
Right into the hot water. And then I suppose we started expanding. Limerick was our next door. We were then in Enniscorthy after that. So everywhere you went, it changed.
Yeah.
You know, the business was ultimately the same model. But we thought, like, you know, as we have 4 stores and when we have 5 stores, we'll figure out exactly what works. But we're still figuring it out because the bigger you get, the more it changes. And the more the market
is the anomaly changes. Of it? Like you know, you look at the likes of Blanchardstown Shopping Centre and you look at the likes of Limerick, then you go down to Drogheda and you see a standalone store. Is there different runnings of the business compared if it's in a shopping centre or if it's standalone?
Not really, no. There'll be different aspects, maybe security aspects that you need to take into account. But you have staff to look after, you have customers to look after. It's a monster to feed with stock. There has to be systems and processes in place, and that has to be honed every day. You know, so you can never accept, oh, we've gotten it right now, because it's not. It's only right for today.
And the position of operations manager, like, I presume that's a massive blanket or umbrella that all that stuff falls under.
Yeah, so everything falls under operations. So there's no pressure whatsoever.
I was going to ask you exactly what, it's probably too long of a list to list out.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about like every department within HQ and then every store within the country and opening new stores and taking on whatever is required as part of that. And then I suppose ultimately what comes out of that is that you can't do any of it without people.
Let's say that.
Yeah. So, but to get people and to have the right people in the right places at the right time, you have to have the right culture.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You know, so that's really ultimately, sometimes people say to me, how are you working within that diversity space? And I said, but I can't work in any other space if we don't have the right people. And we have to work very hard at that.
With the very noticeable increase in cost of living and prices of pretty much everything going up, like how tough is that and how much pressure is there on Mr. Price to maintain that known value of being a bargain retailer?
Yeah, it's a very, very tough one. So we have to be working really, really tight with our suppliers. We're working really tight on margins as it is. Not ever forgetting the customer, because that can often happen in times of increasing costs, that we go, oh, we're going to have to sell that now for €2 extra. But if we forget the customer, then we've forgotten our business. So it's really working on finding new supply chains, getting the current supply chains as cost effective as possible, getting the stock to us as cost effective as possible, and watching all our outputs. And that includes wages, it includes light and heat, and just really keeping on top of it as best as we can and reading our reports inside out.
Well, it is a great thing for the Irish economy, like in terms of staff, how many people work for Mr. Price? Like,
on average, we've about 1,800.
1,800,
yeah.
That's a lot of people.
So it is a lot of people, but it's a lot of opportunities as well, and there's a lot of careers developing out of that. We see like some people who have gone from very junior roles to one gentleman who joined us on the board of directors last year, and he's built his career up. He's studying to get his knowledge base up. So we really do have some great opportunities that come out of it.
Do you provide that opportunity through Mr. Price to be able to grow academically as well?
Yeah, we absolutely do. There's an education program there. We do also do apprenticeship programs through SkillsNet. for retail apprenticeships. We have an apprentice through the Irish Traveller Movement as well in accountancy at the moment, which was our first, and it's really exciting. I actually think it's the first female to come through the apprenticeship programme with the Irish Traveller Movement. So we like to be the firsts if we can possibly manage it. Yeah, and then we do short courses as well and online courses. So we found that a lot of our colleagues don't like the idea of committing to 2 or 3 years. If you mention like college or studying, they go back to school in their heads, and there's nearly like a trauma. But if you say to them, it's a 10-week course or a 12-week course, and you just have to do a project and we'll help you with it, then you don't end up helping them because they don't need it. Yeah. It's just that little step, that little taster. What's HR like? What's finance like? Give yourself a little bit of a chance. I did one recently on coaching, and I've always coached naturally, but I just wanted to get the basis of what I was doing, so
you're doing it right.
Yeah, and pick up something, and you always do, and you meet fantastic people doing it as well. But to commit to 12 weeks is easy. Yeah. To commit to 3 years is a tougher
and things change within 3 years as well. Like, I think to be able to do short courses within retail environment as well, with the likes of everything changing constantly around even social media and how people are being perceived, that you have to be able to speak to people as well differently compared to how we would have spoke to even individuals coming in 10 years ago. That's completely changed now, and everybody's on their phones, everybody's video and everything, recording everything, like, so to be able to manage that type of thing on a short-term basis, even with employees, like, I think is great, like, because it's like a refresher in a sense as well, to keep people up to date on how to.
Probably does it help with staff retention as well, like knowing that they can be incentivized to, I suppose, further their career and maybe make an extra few quid on the wages as well.
That would have been similar to me. I think even when I joined Mighty, like, at the time, part of the interview process at the time was, we provide CPDs, we provide training courses that you can go in and you can do PAT testing, or you can do first aid or mental health first aid and everything like that. That was something for me. I was like, mental health first aid, brilliant, because we'd spoke to people as well, even on the podcast, where that had been lacking within the trade industry. So something like that straight off the bat for me within maintenance was like, I had maybe 2-3 people that I was interviewing with at that time, and it's the little things. You can hear the same thing of everybody when you go to an interview. You get a van, you get a fuel card, you'll get your tools, like, but somebody's providing you with the chance to grow personally and develop yourself. I think is a major thing for a company to provide.
And I do think it gives staff retention. It gives a brand loyalty. That you're remembering, where you came from, and how you're progressing and what age that progression. And then, like, one of the colleagues was talking recently about that he had a very good leaving cert, but he never went to college. His family didn't go to college. His friends didn't go to college. So it was never on the books. Yeah. But he's studying now. He's doing a degree with us. But he's saying his 2 children are watching him study. And how that he feels like that's changing the future within his family now, that his children are thinking about, like, they're seeing that, so they're experiencing it firsthand. So the chances are much greater that they will go to college and they won't follow in, and there's nothing wrong with it. If college isn't for you, it's not for you. But at least there's that lived experience and that, that opportunity for his children.
And someone can give a perspective to them. Like, they'll have plenty of family members that hadn't gone to college, but they'll have that one person that has, and be able to give them a bit of insight into that. Like.
Absolutely. And what better lived experience, or what better lead example is there than one of your parents showing you?
Yeah, exactly.
Talking about, like, the employees and growth and everything else comes with that. And we mentioned at the start of the interview, like, being able to provide avenues for an open door, even. Excuse the pun, with Open Doors Initiative. But to be able to hire individuals from all different types of backgrounds, diversity, equality and inclusion is a big thing for Mr. Price. What drove you and the company to want to pursue that and make that something that was a core asset for Mr. Price in your hiring process?
So when we started the business, it was a financial crisis. It was 2010. Seemed like a really crazy thing that you're starting a business and starting a retail business. So it was very uncertain and very scary, and we were very much scrambling around trying to make it work. So it was decided at the time that we wanted to do something more. We wanted to give back, and we wanted to make sure it was meaningful and sustainable. So you can donate to charity, but you don't know how sustainable that is, and what happens next year when you don't make that donation if you can't afford to make it. So we had come up with, after a young girl had done a transition year program with me, just a 2-week program, and how she transformed in 2 weeks. So we said, well, what about if we start providing meaningful career opportunities, and not what I call a straight arrow. So that's not somebody with experience necessarily, or somebody straight out of university that had the privilege of having that experience, but somebody who maybe doesn't believe in themselves, and somebody who doesn't have the experience of having a career, that we'll invest the time that was spent in us, and we'll pay it forward or pay it back. I don't know which way that works. I think you're paying it forward.
And sideways and everywhere.
Yeah, whichever which way, once it happens. So we had started with a transition year program, and then the National Learning Network reached out and they said, we have fantastic adults. They're doing retail courses, but there's very little opportunities for work experience. And some of them need up to 6 months to really get job ready. So we were like, no problem. Let's see how this works. And honestly, I didn't know how it was going to work. Some of those colleagues are still working for us all these years later. Some of them went from being almost non-verbal, like only a few words, to being fully verbal now and living independently and driving and doing incredible things. So it transitioned from that we started getting a little bit braver, and we started finding new ways of doing things. This idea that you have to be good at everything.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
Yeah.
So we learned to what we call job carving. So it was, focusing in on what somebody was really, really good at, and then joining the team together. So if there's something I don't like doing and something you love doing, well, then let's join together, and productivity actually increased from it. And when it came to the end of the work experience, and I was thinking, how am I going to talk to the manager now and tell him I want him to keep this employee on, our very first one? But I didn't have to do it. He rang me. And he said to me, listen, the relationship built so well, and they really appreciated the employee, and they were like, we actually can't afford to let them go. And of course, I could do the hard sell then and say, well, where are you getting the wages budget from?
Yeah.
So I got something out of it as well, because it wasn't going to be an easier. And from that, it just grew, and then started to say, well, we've access now to untapped talent. That's really beneficial to the business. So what other untapped talent is out there? And that's how the partnership started to grow, the Open Doors Initiative, Peter McVerry, Spirinua, all these really, really fantastic partnerships, because we started to say, let's explore what else is out there. And of course, we ran into a labour shortage not that long ago as well. So this was a real asset to us, that we could reach out to individuals who may have discounted themselves from the labour market.
Do you find that there is a kind of a movement in it now? Do you find that it's becoming more popular since you've dipped your toe in it?
There's definitely more companies interested in it, but I suppose there's also at the moment reversing of DEI practices. So you're getting a little bit of both. But yeah, we have organisations coming to us and saying to us, will you talk to us and tell us how you've done it? Yeah. And we're interested in this area or that area. But definitely, yes, and seeing the benefits from it. And I would have been very guilty of staying in my own lane and not talking about these things, not wanting to exploit the individuals, or not wanting it to seem that we were going to parade you because you're disabled, or parade you because you have a criminal conviction, as like our role models or whatever. So we never wanted that to come across. But then we learned that you actually need to talk out. You need to show good work practices, good employees, and just celebrate what does work, so others can then say, okay, we get this now, and we'll give it a go.
Were you surprised what you found when you started it? Did you realise what it was going to involve when you actually got going at it?
To this day, I'm blown away.
Yeah.
Like, there's times when I look at colleagues that I know who they are. They look like the same person, but they don't act the same. They don't speak the same. Like, there's just this confidence and this ableness that I never ever imagined when you were kind of saying, like, when you maybe couldn't get an employee past the front door for a few weeks and you're saying, how are we going to make this work? And now I look at employees, whether it's just from disability backgrounds or from addiction backgrounds or whatever the background is, like some colleagues that had zero confidence, I didn't know that was a thing. I obviously knew people have different levels of confidence, but some individuals that couldn't look you in the eye, that couldn't speak to you, and are now looking after sections in their stores and are training other staff. You know, so day in, day out, I am blown away. I genuinely couldn't even put it into words.
Is there extra support in place for these individuals once they join?
Yeah, so we have buddies. So buddies are mentors who will look after an individual and put them onto a program. We use a program called Tribe, and it's like, you know, run with your tribe, and you usually only run with one, so it's that positive impact. So yeah, we have a program there that we're currently redeveloping at the moment, so we make sure that it includes everybody. So we bring employee resource groups into play there. So everybody, not everybody, but we have voices across the business that help us to develop programs. And then hearing back from the employees on a regular basis as well is really, really powerful, and it helps us to say that bit doesn't work and this bit does.
So it's not a case of, what would you call, rehabilitating them into society? It's nothing like that as well. Once you've that done, you're checking up with them as well.
Yeah,
making sure everything is going to.
You're always going to check in. Like, you know, you get to the point of 800 employee or 1,800 employees, and you're not checking in on everybody, but there's somebody to check in on everybody. And you know, we're very aware too that there are challenges and there's traumas in background. So you might come across a colleague who's shouting at everybody, and then, because there'll be disclosure, I'll know the disclosure, and I'll say, for instance, if they grew up in care, they may just not know anything any different. Yeah. So just to make sure we don't discipline behaviours that we may discipline normally, you know, and to say, okay, we need to step this back. But it's a great way for us to say internally, okay, so if we're stepping that back for that person, we need to step that back for everybody. Because we don't know in some cases what the trauma is. Yeah. So if there is a bad behaviour, let's not go to HR processes. Let's go to empathy place and find another way of helping. And if that then continues, maybe it is a behaviour that we need to address. Yeah. But just asking the question. So what's good for one is good for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a good way of looking at it. Yeah, 100%.
Is it emotionally uplifting to be able to get the recognition that you have got, not just yourself, but the company and everybody in the company as a family, recognising what you are doing within diversity, in regards to awards and everything as well?
Yeah, I suppose we're a little bit shy about awards. We were kind of strong-armed into applying for them in the first place, and I applied to get the application in to get somebody off my back, and didn't think like we'd never be shortlisted, never mind win. So every time we're like absolutely blown away. Yeah, we're kind of shy about it because it's kind of like, you know, the award is only recognising what you've done in the past, and it's more about what we do into the future, and we don't forget ourselves. We continue to apply for them because it gets us to review what we've done, it gets us to review our numbers, and it gets us to improve all the time.
Milestones nearly.
Yeah, and it's trying to build a programme that is award winning. You know, and start that mindset from the get-go. So if we're going to do it with a good heart and do it properly. So they're a little bit of an uncomfortable discussion, but I do think for our team they're really, really important that that we are recognised and that what we are doing is good practice, and encourage us then to say, don't stand still. What's next? And let's dig deeper and deeper into things.
There's like the real life, what would you say, results with the people that you bring in and you kind of transform and give them a new lease of life. Do you find that would help with any type of pushbacks or skepticism from people?
Yeah, the skepticism is there, you know, and it's something that you have to address with empathy and training and really leading by example as well. We would use employee resource groups for that. We have a fabulous employee resource group called the Margarita Club, and I'm going to disappoint you telling me it's not a drinking club.
It's a pizza.
No, it's not. That's the two things people ask about. So when we were setting up, we had employee resource groups before, and they just weren't, you know, they were good, but they weren't brilliant. The engagement was slow, and they depended on me to, you know, to be behind them. So we brought a group of people together with intersectionality at the heart. Just saying that we're not homogenous, so we're not one thing or another. Like, you know, you could be a disabled traveller, you could be, you know, there's so many different groups that you could fall into. But at the time, the World Down Syndrome did a video around our Down syndrome actress. Her name just won't come to me at the moment, and I'll kick myself for it later. And she went into a bar and she ordered a margarita and she was served a lemonade. And it was all about, you know, your assumptions. So we said, let's call it the Margarita Club. And Down Syndrome Ireland know all about this. And they love our Margarita Club. So there's voices from all over the business within the Margarita Club. It's very, very popular in the business. Everybody wants a go at it and wants to be involved, whereas we couldn't get that previously. You know, you were nearly twisting somebody's arm to say, will you please join this group for me because you'd be amazing. There was just that uncomfortableness about being tagged or being labelled. So the Margarita Club has been fantastic, and we have people coming in with lived experience, and then our own colleagues with lived experience speak up. So that great. Definitely helps the pushback. Sometimes we'll get pushback from public as well.
Good to say that, from outside in.
Yeah, but the team generally rally around and say, this is our colleague and this isn't okay. So, you know, if you get the team working behind the scenes and, you know, working well and those relationships build up, the other piece can be manageable.
Taking it back to like what we spoke about, coming out of school and getting jobs, like starter jobs that we all would have had, would Mr. Price be a welcoming opportunity for, say, young people that are in college or coming out of school and looking to earn a bit of money on the weekend and actually maybe have the ambitions to not stay in retail but do something else? Would that be a good spot for somebody to get in and just get a bit of money, like you said we all done when we were younger?
Yeah, it's a really good place, and we actually take kids, as I would call them, but teenagers in from when they're 15. Really, really good learning. The team look after them well. There's obviously regulations in there, you know, in terms of the Working Time Act and things that we will always follow. But it's a really, really good learning spot. Anybody that deals with the public has an education all on its own, and an education that there's no university, I think, can teach it. So that it's very good.
Life, isn't it?
It's good to turn into work on time. It's good to be responsible for something. Again, we've seen kids really transform. There's one particular kid, and I know her mum, and the kid had an eating disorder, and I'd said to the mum, come on, let's get her into work, you know, and see what happens. And she was very nervous, and she said, I don't think it'll work out. But we now know that was the turning point in her life, where she had her own responsibility and she came to work as herself. And she built her confidence that didn't depend on the family. You know, and that she's now a qualified teacher.
Brilliant.
And she's doing really, really well. So those first jobs form us. I remember my own first job. So well, and they definitely form us.
It's just giving yourself a bit of purpose as well, isn't it? Like getting out of bed in the morning and having somewhere to go, and a bit of camaraderie and, you know, teamwork and everything like that. It does really build you up, like, and it does give you those extra bit of chinks in your armour then for going on to do whatever else you're going to do in life, or stay in retail and grow within there.
And some people do stay in retail. They think they won't, but they do, you know. So it's a great way to get yourself through college and maybe further afield as well, if that's what you choose. But I suppose it's that challenge of that age group getting jobs when they don't have experience, you know. So we try to overcome that and say, you're 15 or 16, we don't expect you to be born with experience.
You know,
and
so then plus, like, looking through the company itself, then, like you mentioned, with the career progression as well, like it's something that they could go into, and then when they leave school, they're straight into it and straight down that route.
Absolutely, go from shop floor into head office, or go from shop floor to being out on the road, whether you're joining a maintenance team or you're joining an audit team or what. There's so many roles.
Yeah.
And so many really good female role models as well in traditional male roles.
Yeah. And with the growth of a good company as well, more of those, as you probably have your head torn.
Absolutely. My mind never stops thinking about ways of doing things.
If someone was to shadow you for a day, we lead on to that question.
Yeah.
What might they be surprised maybe in the role that you mentioned to us walking into the warehouse here, that you're in four corners of Ireland?
Yeah.
Maybe in the space of a week. Is there anything else?
Yeah, some of my colleagues will get a little taste of it from time to time, and the usual statement is, "You're not well in the head." They just get shocked by the level of information, the amount, how things change, the fact that I'm 14 years with Mr. Price and I still haven't had 2 days the same. How no matter how much things are planned out, they'll change. And you could be going from dealing with something administrative 1 minute to dealing with a security issue or dealing with a staffing issue. It's just, you just have to bend and twist to whatever it is, or organising events when we don't know how to organise events. It's just like, let's do it. Like, this sounds like a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So I think Mad in the Head might be just a little bit closer.
So if anyone's ever applying for your job in the future, you just have to be a little bit mad in the head, basically.
Absolutely. and come and get a good bit of training in advance. So, and it's just taking things in your stride as well, that things go wrong. That's just the reality of it. But if I panic, everyone panics. Yeah. So you just have to keep that cool head and just say, we'll figure this out.
And always be open to reskilling as well and educating yourself.
Yeah, and they'll all kind of slag me about, I always say we are where we are. We are where we are, or we'll get there. And somebody said to me one time, what are you going to do when you get there? And I said, I don't think there is a destination. So that'll
be something else.
Yeah, it'll just keep moving and change.
You've either got a shovel or a ladder. Pick one of them.
Absolutely, yes.
But you mentioned there planning events, and obviously I mentioned at the start, one of the initial meetings that we all would have been at an event that was held in Indeed last year, and there's one coming up now again fairly soon. Would you like to let us know a little bit about that and what that's about?
Yeah, so another little pet project. So last year, after we'd been into the Mansion House for a few events, the Lord Mayor at the time of Dublin City, Dahi de Rosa, invited us back. He was intrigued. He's a great man for disability and disability inclusion, and making sure Dublin is an accessible city. So we brought 7 of our colleagues in, and they had such a powerful 2 hours, and Dahi was just amazing. And they talked about the cost of being disabled. They talked about benefits and how when you start working, it's like your disability is gone. But how much it takes for somebody with a disability to get to work in the morning, and all the different costs that are associated. They talked about public transport. There was really nothing that they didn't uncover. Some of the things we're learning as well, like a blind colleague was talking about the electric cars and how how silent they are, and how his guide dog doesn't know how to react. And then that brought up the electric scooters. I'm sure everybody was animated then, because it's one of those topics you either love it or hate it. So it was really, really powerful. The guys got so much out of it. So that advocacy piece stuck with me, and I said, I'm going to do something next year, as in this year. But this year grew arms and legs, and we have booked Indeed on the 18th of June, and we have 100 people booked to be in the room already. Our disabled colleagues are showcasing. They're sitting on panels. We have a disabled colleague who is emceeing. We have experts coming in on the day. Please God, we just got confirmation that the Minister for Social Protection is opening the event for us. So we're hoping there'll be no emergencies in the government that morning that he can't make it, because we're very excited and very grateful for him. So we have a lot of interested parties, and we are going to talk all things disability and employment. We are going to break the myths. We are going to show incredible colleagues what they're capable of, and I challenge anybody to talk disability after it. The whole message will be ability, and just seeing when you open that pathway, what happens. So we're very excited. I'm very nervous.
I think it's a success anyway before the day even happens. But when the dust settles on the day, what do you think would be, a win or like a success coming from the event?
So the idea of the event is business to business. So we have other business and services coming, but mostly businesses. So what we want is we are hoping to launch a charter on the day and ask the businesses to link in with at least one partner, one of whether it's the National Learning Network or CARE, or we will have a list of partners and they will be showcasing themselves on the day. So we would love to see employers just opening up to the idea, maybe linking in with a partner, giving somebody work experience, trying an internship, just to try something different and just see what benefits Mr. Price has had from this and this untapped talent and these personalities that are going to shine. I'll have to make it really, really clear that they're not open for work. Yeah. They're mine. But just showcasing and hopefully opening the minds, because Ireland has the lowest employment rate in Europe for people with disabilities. We need to do more. It's just not okay. For us, 17% of our workforce come from disability programmes. So it's like a phenomenal success. But there's so much more to do. We can't do it on our own. So hence why we're putting ourselves out there, and it's very nerve-wracking to do that, particularly when we're a retailer, not an event organiser.
And when the government is getting involved as well. Nice to see them going to show themselves there.
And to be fair to the Department of Social Protection, they have a focus on disabilities and they do want to see this number changing. So hence why the Minister is agreeing to come.
Yeah, it just takes more people like yourself and Mr. Price to put their best foot forward.
Absolutely. Just give somebody a chance.
Yeah. Everybody else that's going to be there on the day, and myself and Keith are going to come, and it's something that stemmed from the last one that I was at, was able to get us to be able to invite the likes of yourself and other individuals on to promote diversity and equality and inclusion, and hoping from us going to that event this time we'll be able to tap into other people at it, and in season 7 then we'll be able to maybe push a few people's stories and journeys about the event of disability, and
who's been through the cycle, basically.
Been through the cycle and what they have to tell the story. And every season that we have, we give a platform to try and promote something, and I think that would be a perfect one to focus on for next season.
Really, really good. And I think grounding things in human rights and the right to work and the right to pay your tax, as much as we might complain about it. For some people, they never get that journey.
The mental health for people sitting at home thinking that they can't leave their home and go and actually contribute. The fact that they're able to be told that there's a backing there from employers and there's a backing from the government that's going to allow you to be able to go out and actually showcase yourself and contribute to society is great for their mental health. But also it's great to be able to, as a country, show that we're open for that type of advancements within society.
Get the numbers down as well.
But there's also, I'm shocked day in, day out by groups of individuals that I would have a few years ago considered that they don't want to work. But when you meet the individuals, they have discounted themselves because they've got no every time. So if you think about somebody with a criminal past and the CV is Googled and news articles come up, and then it's like, oh God, no, we can't be going there. And when you offer that employee or that person and say to them, would you like a job? And in some cases, they break down crying. They're like, absolutely cannot believe it. So, it's just really opening that up and to say, well, if you do want work and you are prepared to work on yourself, that let's open up that door and give you that opportunity. And this week I was working with two of our staff, and one is a traveller man, and he spoke really, really well about his own disadvantage. And thinking he would never be able to get employment. And another guy who's been through addictions, and let's just say he's a colourful background, and again didn't think he could possibly find himself a pathway, and he's actually now applying for a management role. So he's on that development pathway. So it's just having those good examples and looking at individuals and saying, don't want to know, don't need to know what you did before. Tell me what you want to do next.
It's literally a massive, lifeline, and like for employers, like there's a massive pool of probably untapped talent that are there, and like there's a job for everyone. There is a job that anyone can do. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whether I can't sit in an office, do you know what I mean? So
nor can I.
So now I know you're in that.
But out in the van and driving around and get stuck in, and like it's just like what Keith mentioned there, like having individuals from all different types of backgrounds being able to contribute in. They might not even know how they can contribute until they get in the door and actually just put themselves into certain types of work, and they'll get flagged then to say, look, you know, he's really good there at, you know, logistics, or he's really good at, you know, even if it's down to security or even the management end of things. Like I know you mentioned even before we just got on there, Edel, you know, coming out of prisons and having that mentality of being in a prison as a prisoner, and it's sort of regimented, and you're coming in to a company where there is rules and there is regulations.
Yeah.
So they're able to actually blend easily from one sort of social setting into another social setting. So it might actually feel like home to them, where if they were coming out and they were literally coming out to nothing, it's very easy for them to fall back into some of the reoffending and some of the colourful things like you mentioned before, you know. So I think it's great, and I think like that is a lifeline that you are providing to these people. So I want to congratulate you on it, because you're doing great work.
Class,
and you should be very, very proud of yourself. You should be proud of yourself. The company should be proud of yourselves, and I think it's
more than the awards, even. Like, you know.
Yeah, and hopefully
the results are so much better. Yeah. And on that, we have great results with post addictions, and that's that same thing. It's that you know, there's rules and regulations, so there's structure, just like you would have had in rehab or whatever drug treatment program or addiction treatment program that you'd be on, but it also changes so much. There's so much variety, but you have supports the whole way through. So we realised that really early on, that there's something to do with our environment and the environment for the individuals that they've just left. So it's great to see that.
Brilliant,
you know, and particularly when you see people 2 and 3 years into their jobs and they're clean and sober and they're doing so much better. But it also settles the workforce. So, you know, if you have somebody, you know, maybe a younger person, and they're coming in and they're moaning because I'm in work and like, I'm tired and I'm having a bad day, and then somebody who maybe had a criminal past or suffered with addictions for 15, 20 years, and they go, can I tell you what a bad day looks like?
Tell you a real story.
Tell you a real story.
And then that settles that conversation. And you're learning from each other. You know, and even learning that, you know, really learning that addictions aren't something we choose. There's something that chooses us.
Yeah.
You know, that it's not, we can kind of say, well, just stop taking drugs or stop drinking, you know, or stop eating, whatever your addiction is.
Great, that easy. You mentioned, you told us a little story before we came on. I don't know if it's okay to tell. It was a potential, what you thought might have been a potential setback in the whole cycle, and then it kind of flourished into something more positive than you thought it would ever be. Yeah. Can you tell us that story?
Well, we can tell it because we've told it before, and it really is phenomenal. So we had a gentleman joined us from Peter McVerry Trust. He was our very first person who came through the criminal justice system. Phenomenal success. He came in his 50s to work for the very first time. He talked about earning a decent wage, earning an honest wage, and the difference it made. His colleagues just loved him. He brought prison standards to our business, which was great for me because I wasn't getting complaints about the backyards and things that can happen with landlords. And the team just loved him. But unfortunately, he had reoffended before he came to us. So when his case came up, then he got more time. So I was devastated. I thought that was the end of it, that this is the time when I'm learning my lesson now and this isn't going to work. And that happened on a Friday. I'll never forget it. And I had mulled over it all weekend. It wasn't clearing in my head at all.
Yeah.
And the next week I happened to be in the store anyway. And they were so upset about their colleague that they had done a collection and they'd written letters and they wanted me to get the letters to him in prison, which I did. And they wanted to get to visit him. And so now they visit him every second week. And there's phone calls. He makes the phone calls himself every Monday to the team. And when he gets out, he will be coming back to work. But we were in an employee resource group a few weeks ago and he came up in conversation and they started telling a story about his teeth, his false teeth, right? And I never even realised that. And they were talking about a picture of him when he told a story with Peter McVerry and he had the teeth in. And I said, what's the crack with the teeth? So they started to go on about this story about the teeth and everybody was in a hoop laughing at this. But what was lovely for me was it was took the whole myth of, the criminal who had spent 30 years in and out of prisons and institutions. And it was about this person and it was like as if it was your brother. Yeah. And you slag your brother about their teeth and they told me they only slagged him when he wore them. They had no interest in slagging him when he had no teeth in. It was just the mundaneness about the story that I loved.
And you don't do that with someone that you don't like or that you're in fear of. Yeah, it's proper.
No, and I was like, we actually have to capture that story because it just demystifies this whole big criminal.
It's so simple,
and the letters they wrote were about the food, you talk about food and you talk about TV and and that's what was in the letters and talking about the jobs that he did that they don't want to be doing and would he ever come back and you're like, we miss you and there was nothing, no criticising of him. There was no judgment.
Just support. Yeah.
It was just like it was your brother. And you were like, well, they're much better than the mistakes that they made. And we just want them back.
Building them back up.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's like it turned into this big social experiment that we were like, oh, wow. I did not expect that turnaround.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
There's no better case study than that.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
There's no better way to end the interview, I don't think, on something so positive and so uplifting as well, to think that you could have a group of individuals willing to even take the time to write and speak about another individual in such a, highly motivational way and rebuilding him from the outside. And I think if anybody listening today can take anything from this interview, it's just support from the likes of yourself and Mr. Price and the individuals that work for you. When it all comes together, it can be beautiful.
Absolutely. And it's everybody who has to be involved. It's kind of like an upside down model that the guys in the stores run the head office, and that their solutions are the right solutions. And we just have to listen to that and let them build those relationships and tell us about them.
And it's working.
Because those relationships, then you listen to them and you go, that's just incredible. Let's capture that, or let's get testimonials, or let's, figure out how to do this and who there can run this program for us.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And as a result, then we've been into some of the prisons with the guys as well, so they can get that experience and understand that it's not monsters you're dealing with, they're human beings who made mistakes. Yeah. I'm sure there are some monsters, but we don't.
Tap into the good ones. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure anyway.
What's the hardest question we ask?
Our Spotify playlist.
I wrote this down because I said I will forget it. Okay, the one I'm listening to at the moment is Amble, Schoolyard Days.
Oh yeah,
love it.
Yeah, myself,
really,
actually,
really
brilliant.
Like
yeah, I was
but I said if
the
I didn't
M50.
write it down, I'd forget it, and then I'd be like, "Oh, what is it?"
It's good. This first Amble on the playlist.
Is it? Oh,
yeah, we love them. Yeah, so
wouldn't be like me to have a first.
That's it. Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you at the event, and hopefully we'll get talking again soon.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers. Right, that's it. Season 6. done and dusted in the can. I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed that one.
Really enjoyed this season. Dare I say it, I think it might be our best one today. But I'm hoping everyone else thinks that. It doesn't really matter what me and you think. But special thanks to everyone that jumped on the challenge wall this season. We got a nice few people through the doors. Good scores were made. Special thanks to N2 Electrical, who sponsored all the tools that were used during. And big shout out to Remy Tools, who was our guy for the tool holder, for holding all them tools. Fuse Box as well for supplying the distribution board. And our sponsors, obviously, Robus for supplying the Harbour Express.
Yeah, I just want to say a massive shout out to every guest that walked through that door, sat in the chair, opened up, shared their stories, shared their journeys, and shared their lives with us. Pretty much did exactly what the wall said, stripped themselves back and gave everything that they could, not just to us to learn, but for all of our listeners and our viewers that follow us through Spotify, Apple, YouTube. I think it's very brave for them to do that, and hopefully they'll encourage more people to come on next season and do the same. Yeah,
well, look, that's the aim, isn't it? It's to get them through the doors, share their life experiences, share what they expert in, craft wise or inspirational wise, fitness, wherever it is wherever's their niche. They can share that with us, and we can pass that down the lens or through the ears of listeners. That's what we're here to do, and I think it's been a success.
Yeah, here. And I just want to say, like we always say, a massive thank you to our sponsor, Robus Lighting, the world's leading LED lighting company, for their continued support.
Yeah, really, really appreciate it. And a special thanks to Lindsay at Snickers Workwear Ireland for their continued support as well.
Yeah, and like I said, we're going to take a break now between season 6 before we get into season 7. So if you could, head over to wherever you get your podcasts, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a comment, share our podcast around, get other people interested, and you'll be notified then when the next season drops. So have a good one. Take it easy. See you next time.
Appreciate you. Talk to you in a few weeks.